Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here!
And Blue Dragon 5.
And last time we had our special guest star on, we were talking about a very pivotal Zac Effron performance. The evolution of the Troy Baker character in High School Musical 2.
Troy Bolton.
I'm sorry.
Another
Troy
TV,
Bolton.
though.
Well, this just goes to show how good I'm not going to wing things anymore. All right. Point being, Troy Bolton, the evolution of Troy Bolton, it was a very pivotal role in young Zac Efron's career. And also, to our special guest, this is where she took notice of the young lad. And with us tonight is Katie Mary Garland to talk about, oh boy, a role that young Zac Effron could not be... this is something that, in the High School Musical days, we're just like, gee, Zac Efron, Ted Bundy, it makes perfect sense, right? Oh boy. This is something that, in the High School Musical. Jesus Christ.
Superstar. Perhaps I should
take over.
Okay, folks. Let me put it this way, folks. Yes, as Tiki's alluding to right now. Yes, we've seen Zac Efron play.
I'm so sorry.
Let me take the reins here, buddy boy.
All right.
Let me give it a shot. I'm just gonna take a random stab.
I don't even know where that echo came from because I don't have the video pulled up anymore.
No idea. All right.
Anyway,
what was I? Oh yeah. Okay, here we go, folks. Okay, so folks, you've seen we've seen Zac Efron take on the role of Troy Bolton, another famous TB, if you will. But you know what? Years down the line, if you told Troy Bolton that, and you told if you told the actor who played Troy Bolton, hey, you're going to play another TB, who could it be? Down the line, it would be Ted Bundy. Wow, I didn't really see that one coming, but I mean, again, I got the acting cachet to pull it off. Let's see what happens, and that brings us to a special little film in kind of the year of Ted Bundy, 2019. I don't know if we get two really big Ted.
Oh boy.
Shockingly.
Hello?
Hi, I'm still here.
Dragon just phased out.
That's what I heard.
Weird. Okay. Usually I'm weirded out by that because usually it's the technical issues are on my end, not his end. All right. Well, we're just going to keep going. Hey there, Katie. How you doing? Welcome back to the podcast.
I'm great. Thanks for having me back.
I am so sorry about all these. This is just I'm glad this isn't the first impression we're making on you. It's like, it's the third impression. So it's like, we have our stuff together. This is just kind of bad luck on our part.
Yeah, something must have just happened with his Wi-Fi or something because it was like...
I have no idea. He just kind of it's almost like he got Avengers snapped out of existence. Oh, speaking of Avengers, now there's two of them. They have to fight.
Oh gosh, that is the ass of America.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I know which is the evil one. Dragon, say something.
Oh
no. Oh no. Oh god. All right, Katie.
That's okay, we'll take the reins.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw it over to you, Katie, because you're kind of the big reason why we're doing this movie and why we're doing a whole podcast about it. Of course, you already mentioned it in your High School Musical 2 podcast. Hey there, Dragon.
Howdy. So I can take it my intros fell on complete deaf ears because technical difficulty just now. I'm getting a sense of.
We heard till when you were like TB and he's playing another.
Literally got
TV.
Thanos snapped out of existence, Dragon. You stopped mid-sentence.
Well,
and then I was just like, said something. But anyways.
Oh, and Dragon, just so you know, it's 2024.
Oh right. Oh goodness. 2024 already. Well, back to
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 30 something now.
Oh man, it's like little Cassie Lang. I missed it all. Darn it, no.
Anyways.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we're just about to say the thesis, but I'm not going to go first.
Oh no! Oh, what is this madness?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. Okay, Katie, just go on. Even like a scarecrow, just go on.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna. Okay, so we're doing the Ted Bundy. Woo woo. Extremely wicked. What is it? Extremely wicked.
Extremely wicked.
Shockingly evil and vile.
You got it.
Yeah. I will say I didn't realize until I saw this, because I didn't watch the trailer, that it was gonna be from the girlfriend's point of view and based on her book and everything. And I see why they didn't show any of his murders until the very, very end, because you were supposed to see everything from her point of view. However, I think they could have thrown in little subtle, creepy hints that she even talks about in the memoir, where she finds a hacksaw under the seat, just little subtle things. You know what I mean? Because when I watch the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix, I get the willies, and I never really got the willies when I was watching this. I don't know. How do you I liked it a lot, and I thought Zac did great, but I don't know. I wanted to see more. I wanted to get creeped out more.
Katie, I'm totally simpatico with you on that, because I feel like it's an interesting movie. It's an ambitious movie in terms of narrative structure.
Yeah.
But by the same point, it's not what I was expecting. And I feel like how much of this is expectation versus filmmaker's intention. You know what I mean? That's kind of the battle that I'm weighing in my head right now.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure they wanted us to see it from her point of view, and that's why they don't show the flash of him killing anyone until he admits it to her at the end. I don't know. I guess I just wish they would have maybe marketed it different, or called it something different, so we knew going into it we're not gonna get creeped out. We're gonna kind of almost be maybe he didn't do it, or although we all know he did, but kind of see the other side of things. Not call it extremely wicked. I don't know. Something maybe from her point of view should have been the title. I don't know. But having said that, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I was just kind of oh, this is what I'm watching.
In a way, this is just kind of a weird, Phantom Thread-esque domestic drama. You know what I mean? It's like a Paul Thomas Anderson domestic drama in a way. It's just kind of it's got that same sort of framework of this really eccentric guy going to town and just kind of ruining this woman. And I don't know. It's got an interesting framework to it, but I'm absolutely on board with you that I would have liked to see it as more of a thriller type movie with stuff that you were mentioning, like finding the hacksaw under the bed, or, even having Zac's performance, as good as it was, maybe having Zac be a little bit more unhinged, throw in a little bit more of those random laughs that the real Ted Bundy had in interviews.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of stuff that I feel like was missing from this movie.
Yeah, and even if they wanted to make it from her point of view, it's just the occasional whoa, that was kind of creepy.
Exactly, the occasional thing to kind of set you off, oh, okay, I really need to be on my guard. But
yeah, more
again,
questioning oh, he did it, oh, he didn't, because the whole time I'm oh wow, I see why she thinks he didn't do it, and that's I know that was the point of the movie.
Yeah,
but I wish there would have been a little bit, just a little bit more of oh my god, the way he laughed was so creepy, or the way he looked at her.
I really need to check out the Bundy tapes. I have not watched those yet. I really need to get on that. All right. But yes, generally speaking, I'm completely, I completely feel the same way about it. Honestly, too, with the direction they went with it, I think they could have easily cut out a solid 10, 20 minutes of this movie. I think the runtime's a little long. Dragon will know. I'm a stickler for runtime. Right, yep. Dragon? Can you attest to that?
I can, yes. He's always I told him, there's this amazing movie, one of the things that made Downey Jr.'s career. How long is it? Well...
Oh, I didn't. What? I wouldn't have. What would you have cut?
I don't know what I would, in terms of cutting, it's not about like particular scenes for me, it's more about pacing. So I guess maybe I would cut some of the repetitive, like, oh look, he's calling Liz again. I don't know. It's like I feel like there's
I would have cut the Haley Joel Osment stuff, personally. That's what I would have.
Yeah.
Honestly, all those scenes, you take them out, you don't really lessen the movie at all, really.
Okay, you guys just blew my mind because I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't bother to look up the credits.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought,
yeah.
oh, man, I'm surprised you didn't pick up that one of all characters. Wow.
Okay, well, to be fair, Haley Joel Osment doesn't look like his freaking Sixth Sense self. You know what I mean? It's like
He doesn't, but he's
the most iconic look of Haley Joel Osment is well behind the man at this point.
yeah, he's gained a little bit of weight. Oh God, that's terrible.
I mean, no offense to him.
true,
I've gained a little bit of weight since childhood as well, but
I mean,
Well,
yeah,
it's
but
less
he's
the
still
weight.
pushing
He's
it.
got a beard.
And
You can go with that
it's
one.
actually kind of better that he doesn't look like his kid self because you're not like comparing him to that.
that's true. That's true.
I just am a weird.
Because when you look at
person
Macaulay
that I'm
Culkin,
like, oh, that's him.
when you look at Macaulay Culkin is literally like a weird, like adult version of the Home Alone kid.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like an uncanny valley thing. Where it's like, yeah, I can see what you're saying. At least Haley Joel Osment like grew into his own person.
Yep.
Meanwhile,
So
Freddie Highmore sitting over there like, ha ha, I've aged the most gracefully out of all you bastards. All right. Dragon, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, so again, overall, this is not the standard serial killer biopic, and I applaud it for that. I really do. I think it's refreshingly well edited. Efron's performance is possibly his best. This I feel this cuts to the core of what's terrifying about a serial killer, and cuts the core of what's terrifying about a serial killer without using the usual trappings of it. It's like that thing we didn't do, like the whole always laughing maniacally. He's doing this sort of stuff. He's he's killing animals in his youth. I know so many times it is kind of a thing to kind of judge. Kind of like you kind of sniff at a serial killer using that stuff. But again, we don't see that stuff. We don't just spell it out. We don't see he's a guy with like a nasty scar. He's got like a deformity, or he's got like he's got a necklace of human body parts. We're not doing any of that stuff. He's we're not doing those usual trappings, and importantly, it sucks you in like our titular victim's point of view, and I think that's the most impressive thing about it. We're sucked into Liz's point of view, and again, you're kind of like caught in, oh my God, the guy is charming, but by the same token, again, you can kind of see like, yeah, he's pulling the wool over a lot of people's eyes, at least it would seem, yeah, and that in itself to me is just really impressive, and maybe. Yes, I agree. Maybe it could have been trimmed or a little bit more focused. Again, the instant thing I'd call would be Haley Joel Osment, because again, basically he's what you'd call he's a composite character. He and Liz's friend are composite characters that are basically taken from multiple interviews with people in their lives, or like all the male figures that kind of helped her kind of see the light of day, as well as her female friends. So they kind of all combined together in those roles, and really, you take them out of the equation, don't really lose anything. And that's the only things I'd really trim from it. But like in a brief few places is my point. But this film, it's probably the definitive Ted Bundy biopic. So let me put it to you this way: there are 3 important Ted Bundy movies. All right, there are 3. There's a few more, like a lot of them are TV movies, but the point is like there are only 3 that count. There's this one. There's The Deliberate Stranger with Mark Harmon. That was the first one in '86. That's a really good one. That's the one that actually holds the candle to this one. The only difference is there was violence in it, but they had to censor it for TV. But Mark Harmon was a really solid Ted Bundy. Wasn't quite like a lookalike like Zac Effron, but again, he looked close enough. And again, he had a little bit of that charm to him. And the oddest one I direct you guys to, which is on Amazon currently, this is the first time I saw a Ted Bundy movie. It's the one that's plainly called Ted Bundy from 2002. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
What's it called?
I have not.
It's just called Ted Bundy. It's just the name, and it's on Amazon. And I'll caution you. All right, so this is my first foray into Ted Bundy on film. I like seeing it kind of done. It's kind of re-dramatized and so on and so forth. And I got to tell you, this thing, it's like Serenity.
Oh no!
Now, he knows what that means.
He doesn't know what that means, probably, but I know what that means.
So what I say about this is that this thing, it's technically the most comprehensive, but by the same token, they're doing the stuff you guys were kind of talking about. In your general thoughts, like he's laughing like a maniac. He's doing a lot of stuff that makes you wonder.
Well, I just want it to be like little subtle things that creeped me out.
That's fair, Katie, but I'd raise you the point that I think we do have a lot of that smartly laid in the film, like the image we have before us here, where again, like they focus in on these little micro tells that again, until we get to that final scene, she then puts it together when we see those scenes kind of played rapidly together. She's saying, "Oh wow, he was doing these other things, but secretly they could also be seen as creepy. Like he's holding a knife in this scene, a few other scenes, or it's like visually it's all there." Like we were, if we remember.
Yeah, I will say I was very creeped out when he had the kid or the knife by the kid. Like that did creep me out, and I just wish there were a little more of those like micro moments. I guess is what you're. Calling. Yeah.
And basically, the Ted Bundy movie from 2002. Let me put it this way: right there, if this movie is really kind of laden with subtlety, the Ted Bundy movie is the polar opposite. I mean, polar like the Netflix movie Polar, in terms of like we stripped out all the subtlety. I mean, there's literally my old forensic science teacher. We just love the crap out of this movie, where it's in a ridiculous sense of just like there's a moment in the movie with Ted Bundy, and again, no idea if that there's only so much you can discern like if this happened in real life, because those are kind of the secrets kept between Ted and the victims, unfortunately. You have these moments where again, like they really went off the rails with this interpretation of Ted Bundy, where he's like saying, "Hey," he has a woman in the car. He says, "Hey, look over there," and he hits her with something on the back of the head. Like literally, I'm not joking. He points like, "Hey, what's that over there?" and just hits her like a lead piper's in the back. So again, you have the severity of Ted Bundy, but by the same token, there's a lot of unintentional comedy.
I need to see this movie now. You've sold me on it.
So the point being, that was like that used to be the most comprehensive. Where Mark Harmon's thing was about. The Mark Harmon thing, Deliberate Stranger, that's about Ted Bundy. Like, it's about him, like, going after these women. And again, it's terrifying, but it's also like, that's more of a, it's good. It's been a while since I've seen. I don't know how it holds up to this movie, but that one was probably the best Ted Bundy movie before this was made. Then you had Ted Bundy, which was comprehensive, but again, laughable at many a point. And then we have this, which I think out of the three, it's definitely narratively the strongest to me.
Okay, I'm going to lay something out there in my thesis, but I don't want to go into it too much for personal obvious reasons. But my mother just recently got out of an abusive relationship that lasted about 10 years. And so, suffice to say, this movie was a very interesting watch for me to see kind of the journey that one would go on in terms of like, that initial first spark of romance and wanting to hold on to it, hoping against hope. And, and even though other people might say that the guy is a monster, you seen kind of like the innocence in the guy. And I gotta admit, like this movie did kind of do a good job of making me a little bit more empathetic towards my mother's plight in that regard. Not that I wasn't empathetic towards her situation, of course, but empathetic in terms of like why she stayed with him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Like I said, this is like the last word I'm going to say about that. I don't want to make the whole podcast about that remotely, but suffice to say, it was an interesting element of the movie from a subtextual, personal point of view that I definitely took away from it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. All right. And I also feel like the movie does have it has the potential to be a very empowering movie for other people who were the victims of an abusive relationship, or even just like a psychologically manipulative relationship, and kind of coming out of it the other side stronger, even though you're always going to be wounded by it to a certain extent. I don't know. I'm kind of talking out my ass about it, but I'm just saying, I feel like the movie does have a good. It strives for a good message there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anyways.
All right.
So let's talk about kind of generally how we first came across Ted Bundy just as a subject, our sort of like forays into him. I gotta tell you guys, I don't know much about the guy. I really don't. You know, the only thing I really know about him is, you know, he was kind of like the sexy serial killer. You know what I mean? I kind of know like the kind of the splash headline of the guy, and he of course shows up in true crime documentaries alongside the likes of like Ed Gein and John Wayne Gacy. And so honestly, it's like I definitely need to watch the Bundy tapes. That's something that I've been meaning to watch throughout you know, the time that it's been released. It's always been something that's been on the back of my Netflix queue, and I'm like, oh, I'll get to that eventually. I just need to be in the right mindset for it. And so you know, so for me, I don't really have a lot of connection to him in terms of like being fascinated or read up by on the guy or anything.
Well, I knew a lot about him.
Oh boy! All right, all right.
Because I lived in Colorado for a few years, and then I, you know, lived in Florida and went to Florida State, and he was like the cautionary tale that like everyone talked about. Like I remember my parents telling me about him. I remember just like fellow students. Actually, like the sorority house where he killed a few girls is still there, and they just have the room like sealed off.
That's super creepy to me.
Yeah, and I just like I remember being, you know, the story everyone told me was, you know, he was a 20-something-year-old guy. He was attractive. He would walk around with either crutches or a cast.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
With books in his hand, being like, "Can you help me to my car?" And then he would hit them over the head and put them in the car and kill them. And I remember that was like, I really just like was always, and that made me realize like, okay, I got to be super cautious about every single guy, not just like guys who like lurk in the shadows, like guys that are like seem cute and have, you know, an injury and all that. So I remember hearing about that. I remember hearing about the trial, how like girls would go to his trial because he was like a good-looking guy, which was like sick. I just remember like in college, I heard all about him. It was because it was like at Florida State's where he got caught. I mean, then he got sent down to prison in like Miami and all that. But yeah, so I remember hearing a lot about him, especially in college. And then I never like looked him up or anything, just, you know, word of mouth. And then I mean, it made me like super like cautious. It was good, like walking home at night, and which, you know, it made me like always aware, and it made Florida State have like a safe bus and like a shuttle at night that you could call.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say it was good, but it made everyone like super, you know, safe and aware.
Yeah.
Even, you know, 30 years later or however long it was. And then when I found out Zac was playing him, I was very excited because I was like, this is actually something that I know about. And I love Zac. So I'm like, if he's going to play a serial killer, I'm glad it's this one. I would have watched it anyways.
What if Zac was playing like John Wayne Gacy or something like that?
I will say Zac and the Paperboy, I was like very disturbed. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Paperboy? No, I haven't.
Paperboy, I don't recommend it.
Dragon, do you know about this?
I know about it. I've seen a few scenes from it.
Okay.
It's a really weird movie. Like Zac's not weird in it, but just like John Hughes Zac is actually super creepy in it.
Oh, okay.
He's just, it's just really creepy. Anyways, yeah. So that's what I knew about Ted.
All right, Dragon.
All right, so Ted Bundy, of course, you know, iconic serial killer for the ages. This guy, you know, he's for any who've seen Silence of the Lambs, of course, you know, he's in part the inspiration behind Buffalo Bill.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you'll remember, in Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill, he believe, I forget if it was, it had to be Catherine, with Catherine Martin, you know, the girl was kidnapped, thrown in the pit. He uses Ted Bundy's move at the start of that movie, because basically they mixed him a little bit of Ed Gein with the whole lady skin suit idea, and that's, of course, Ed Gein also fits in the whole, like, psycho lore of it all, but the point being, Buffalo Bill's composite of three serial killers. I keep blanking on the third one, but again, it's a little bit of Ed Gein. But in terms of how he gets the victims, it's Ted Bundy because he would. Because he basically faked it. He like wore a sling around his arm, like he had a cast on his arm, and he's trying to load a couch into a truck. Sorry, a couch into a van or something. Couch into a van. That's it. He says, "Go, can you help me?" It's Ted Levine saying, "Oh, can you help me? I'll get this couch in the van." And of course, she helps out, and he hits from the back of the head. And that's how Ted Bundy operated. Basically, just as you said, Katie. So again, that's where they got inspiration for him from that, and the whole unsuspecting, kind of serial killer of it all. And a lot of shades of Bundy within that. Even if you look back on Psycho, again, because bear in mind, Ted Bundy was really in creation after Psycho was made as a movie. Psycho is, I believe, 1960, maybe 61. I think it was 60. Point is that Ted Bundy got started in 68, I believe. So point being, that was way after Psycho. But again, retroactively, especially Tiki and I being the big Bates Motel fans that we are, you look back on something like Psycho.
Oh, there's definitely some Ted Bundy and Freddie Highmore's performance of Norman Bates for sure.
And that's what I'm saying. That's because of again kind of the heights of kind of serial killer infamy that Ted Bundy rose to. Where again, like now we kind of apply a lot of Bundy to that, and of course, just in general, what Psycho's all about, where you have Norman Bates just kind of as like you never suspect this guy is he's a serial killer or anything. He's kind of the humble
Norman Bates is kind of like the ultimate embodiment of that in a way.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So Ted Bundy is kind of the thing. Is he redefined what people thought of as a serial killer? Because before that point, you had like an Ed Gein, like, oh my gosh, just this creepy, like kind of dirty farm.
Or John Wayne Gacy, like literally the clown killer.
Exactly. And Bundy was the first, like monsters can exist in skin suits as it were. Like, just monsters can exist just kind of walking around in broad daylight. He also kind of created the blueprint for the phases of a serial killer, where you have the trolling phase, the wooing phase, and then the capture and murder phase. And it's like it's kind of an abbreviated version of it, but essentially that's kind of it's basically Bundy opened a lot of eyes and kind of redefined like a lot of criminology. That's kind of what he did. I don't know if it was purely Bundy. Bundy was the most famous case that kind of opened the public's eyes. It was kind of he was kind of the OJ of his day in terms of popularity for trial, because I believe it was a new thing with them when we would televise a trial, which he did.
Well, according to this movie, and of course I don't know if it's completely true because biopic, but according to this movie, it was the first televised trial.
Entirely possible, because again, this movie did get a lot right. They made a very few liberties, believe it or not. This movie is they composited some characters, and that's the main. They composited some characters and maybe had, for the sake of drama, for a specific final scene, they may have kind of changed a few things around. But everything pretty much that you see in this movie, as far as I can find, is on the money. Everything's pretty on the money for this movie. And again, yeah. I mean, yeah, for the most part. I mean, definitely compared to the other Ted Bundy stuff, and this is the most on the money in terms of like getting the facts right and such. But let me put it this way. So, of course, a killer representing himself in the trial—that's a biggie too. I believe that I don't know if that was a first for a serial killer, but again, that's a very public thing that he did. I remember that whole thing. Like, oh my gosh, how creepy it is, where Ted Bundy would interview essentially interviewed the victims that got away on the stand. Imagine how creepy that is. And of course, just being, again, charm in the courtroom, all that sort of stuff. And all of that, and you can find the footage of it and stuff. And any documentary you see on Ted Bundy, they'd show some of that footage again from the televised trial. And again, overall, it's just, again, he was the wake-up call that a serial killer can be anyone. And basically, as people have kind of deemed him, and I agree with this, he's kind of the modern-day Jack the Ripper. That's kind of what he was. He was the modern-day Jack the Ripper, the man who would kill women, and again, he would get around, and again, just be a woman walking alone, as Katie just kind of went through, walking around on a college campus alone. Never hear from her again, or you'd find her in a horrific state of just utter scariness. Just
yeah, and he would do it during the day too. Apparently, who knows?
Yeah, he would, and of course, there are other things.
It's also scary.
Plus, there's some other things this movie had this. Again, the movie's focused not on just the stuff we've seen before we've really heard, or again, like the documentary it got into. Again, bear in mind the documentary, the Ted Bundy tapes. Bear in mind there's several Ted Bundy documentaries, but the most recent, most kind of comprehensive one, the Ted Bundy tapes. That one, that one really just kind of it's done by the same guys.
Was smart that they released that and then this. They knew what they were doing.
And completely coincidental too, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it was not a plan. It just kind of happened that way. But they were done by the same guy. They're done by directed and kind of produced by the same guy, Joe Berlinger. So So yeah, I guess the last thing to note with that. Oh, anyway, yeah, well, I mean, some other stuff too, like of course, like Bundy with some very infamously too, like the necrophilia, which is really creepy and stuff. That's a thing. Like that's the thing they skirted with really loosely with this movie.
Yeah,
like,
they didn't really mention that.
That's the thing. That's stuff like the Bundy tapes get into a little bit more, but other
they still
stuff,
want to keep some of that High School Musical nostalgia alive.
I guess so.
Exactly. But again, if you want,
now you gotta cut that.
Yeah.
if you want to see a Serenity level addressment of that, again, the Ted Bundy 2000.
All right. You've already sold me on it, Dragon. You've already sold me on it. It sounds right up my alley.
The point is, Ted Bundy definitely made a name for himself, an infamous name for himself, but a name for himself nonetheless. So all that said.
Okay. So, Dragon, hit us with some background on this thing.
Background on this.
And of course, I know there's some distribution drama with this movie, so I'm curious for your take on it.
Well, I can only find out so much about that particularly because, Netflix, they like to, they don't want to stir the pot, especially lately. But let me put it this way, all right? So, Joe Berlinger, he's a documentarian, mainly for true crime based on other stuff. He did a thing on Metallica. The guy's done a lot of...
Metallica, Some Kind of Monster?
I believe that's it, yeah.
Oh, that's a damn good one, yeah.
So that's the thing. So Joe Berlinger, he's gotten around. He made a name for himself in the documentary circuit. The biggest thing that he did, I forget if this one was nominated or not. I forget which. He's done some stuff that's been nominated for Academy Awards. I
know Metallica, Some Kind of Monster was nominated.
Okay, I think that's what that must be the one. Do you know if it won or was it just nominated?
It's possible that it won.
I think
it was a big deal in the documentary circuit that year.
I think I saw in the poster said Academy Award winner, so I believe that
it's very possible.
Anyway, point being, the big thing that he did in terms of like kind of true crime documentaries, to my recollection, was Paradise Lost. That was a big thing that he did. That was the thing.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's a big one.
Paradise Lost, I believe, I don't know if it was either that or Metallica. Basically, you could say this and Metallica. They kind of put his name on the map, so to speak. So those were big for him. And also, he did, based on Paradise Lost, he did a lot of post-conviction works. He did a lot of, he beyond the film side of things, again, using his talent for film and document, as a documentarian. He's done a lot of like post-conviction work. He's helped people in real life. He's done a lot of really good stuff. So 2017, he gets sent the Ted Bundy tapes by the author who's in the Ted Bundy tapes documentary. It's something. The guy's name. It's God. I'm stupid. I'm blanking on it right now. It's Anyway, the point is the guy who sat down did the Ted Bundy, who recorded the interviews with Ted Bundy. He sent Berlinger the Ted Bundy tapes, and of course this inspired him to make a documentary using these tapes. And basically, he was on a Ted Bundy kick, so he figured, okay, I'm gonna do this thing with the Ted Bundy tapes, and with all the information I've got from the Ted Bundy tapes, let me do a biopic on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just for like, hey, let's Ted Bundy, right? That's what the kids like today, because obviously Ted Bundy's time is is gone at this point. However, there was a goal behind the movie. And Katie was circling around it very well here, where basically he wanted to do a film about the nature of evil from the victim's perspective.
Yeah.
And Zac Effron, this movie was written for Zac Effron for a very good reason. I love this reason upon finding this out because it gave like the rewatch whole new meaning, where Zac Effron was chosen for this because he kind of paralleled, and because he looked remarkably like Ted Bundy. If given the right hairstyle, he looked remarkably like Ted Bundy, and he kind of had the feel of Ted Bundy. Basically, you could kind of parallel the effect of Ted Bundy with a Zac Efron, where you take an actor again is like kind of the wholesome. He kind of has like goes back to High School Musical days. He's kind of known for a lot of that, and of course the guy's got kind of charm for days, and you could use that as kind of the perfect guy to facilitate the cautionary tale of Ted Bundy then with Ted Bundy now. Where we take a guy who has kind of almost an insatiable charm of Zac Efron. And of course we show people have like a presumption of Efron that we kind of give them this movie where again we avoid the cliches. Because Zac Efron was only hesitant to do this movie initially because he wasn't do the cliche of I used to be at Disney, so I'm going to take on a really, really dark role. But they kind of sold him the fact that no, you could be the cautionary tale for something really important here. That's kind of how they sold him on it.
Yeah.
Good.
And basically the story for the movie and kind of focusing on Liz's perspective comes from The Phantom Prince: My Life with Ted Bundy, tell-all book by Liz Kendall, who essentially is Liz in the movie. She wrote a book and that kind of framed it from her experiences and again kind of the interviews and such, along with the Ted Bundy tapes, kind of fill in the blanks here and there for things and for events. And of course, this film got a lot of controversy in its release.
Oh yeah.
So here's what happened. So the director, he said, "Look, I did not make the trailer. The trailer essentially was what caused the controversy, and he did not make the trailer. It's marketing."
Oh, really?
So that's the thing, because he doesn't like the trailer either. A lot of times, and apparently this is a regular thing. This is like we've talked about this before.
It is a regular thing. I mean, honestly, it's like a director kind of has to have carte blanche on a project in order to cut the trailer together. Like Nolan would be a good example of a director who cuts trailers.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because many times you'll hear like directors saying, "Oh god, they blew the best parts in the trailer." Like Brian Henson for this is going to be a weird comparison, but again, bear in mind,
oh no,
Ted Bundy here, so again, the rules right here. Brian Henson with the Happy Time murders.
Oh god, yeah, they literally blew their load with that one.
They did. And again, he didn't want that in the trailer, but they put it in the trailer, and again, that kind of spoiled one of the funny.
I hate it when trailers do that.
Yeah,
I hate it. I'm like, well, I don't need to go watch the movie now.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many stupid dog movies I've seen the trailers for. It's like, I've seen the whole stupid movie. Why are they trying to sell me?
That's how I feel about Christmas Hallmark movies. Like, I already don't like watching those, but like, if a girlfriend's over and she really wants to watch it, I'm like, fucking fine. But like, let's watch one that like I'll at least laugh at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll watch the trailer, and I'm like, well, that was the movie in 5 minutes, but like literally you can even tell like, oh, there's the hot guy, but then there's the guy that she should really fall in love with.
Yeah.
And look, they're falling in love now. And it even shows like their kiss. I'm like, this is so that's such a pet peeve of mine.
One of the best examples.
So does this trailer have like the hacksaw part in it?
Essentially, yes. Here's what happens.
My God.
So here's the deal. Okay, so the director, again, he does not want to glorify violence because the movie's all about like you don't really suspect that until
you're kind of like, oh, did he really do that? I need to go back.
Exactly. The movie kind of plays a head trick on you where it's like based on the facts that he did it, but from the perspective of the victim, it's kind of like, well, I don't know, like why am I having doubts even though this is like a historical
the cell is very simply, it's a woman. Again, if this killer of women has this woman has this female confidant, has this love of his life, throughout the whole thing, who is just basically has the love of his life throughout the whole thing, sorry, I'm losing my place a little bit here. Anyway, the point being, he has his love of his life throughout the whole thing. He was just questioning him. So again, a man who kills a woman who has a woman who just is starting to question everything. Yeah. That made any sense? Kind of trail off there. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So they do the trailer. They did the trailer, and essentially they kind of showed like all the clips of all the violent stuff in there, which of course defeats the purpose of what he's going for.
Yeah, the trailer basically made it look like kind of like an engaging, like fast-paced psychological thriller.
Yeah, it looked like there was going to be like you're going to see more murders in plain view, like Ted Bundy's going around killing people, and that did not happen at all. And that's what kind of stirred the controversy. People saying you're glorifying a killer. Where again, if you saw the movie,
exactly,
wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate situation.
So I don't know if they never. I assume at some point they plan to go to Netflix with it. I don't know if they plan to go to Netflix. My assumption is that they wanted to go in theaters and eventually would hit Netflix. I don't know if it was going to be.
That's probably what it was going to. I definitely know it was slated at first to only have a theatrical run. I know that much.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Dragon, you know about that, right?
Yeah, I know that. Just the question is entirely if it was like how public or like if it was going to be like wide release or if it's just going to be like just a release.
Right. Yeah.
That's the question.
As far as I know, I have a feeling like to do a recent example of like a movie that went from theatrical to streaming, The Big Sick. That had a pretty good theatrical run and then went on to Amazon Prime because it was an Amazon movie. Right. So I imagine it would have been like ideally they probably wanted to go for something like that.
Well, I'm sure they wanted to, have it release at theaters, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially Zac. I'm sure he was probably like, oh, yeah, this will be my Oscar nom. No, I don't know if he was thinking that. But I'm sure he was thinking like, oh, this will be like my
he was probably thinking it was possible.
Right. And he was probably thinking like, oh, this will be my like breakout drama. Because like all his other dramas, like, frankly, have just kind of flopped.
What other dramas has he been in?
Well,
Out of curiosity?
Paperboy was one, which
Charlie
I told
St.
you.
Cloud.
Charlie St. Cloud. Oh my god.
Charlie St. Cloud's probably honestly the one that's done the best. But God, what was that one he was in with like Dennis Quaid where he was like a race car? It was so, and this is me, like I love Zach, but it was so bad. Like the writing of it was just bad. Like there was just like no plot. And I just remember being like, I can't believe that got made over like scripts that I have read that are actually like great. You know what I mean? I'm just like, there's so much fucking bullshit. Like, I cannot believe it got made. God, what was it called? God,
I'm blanking
I
on
think
it
I like
too,
I think I like blocked it out because it was just so bad. At any price. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. At any price. It was like him and Dennis Quaid, and like it had like a good beginning where he was like this race car driver, and then it just like took a weird turn and it didn't really have a plot. Like I was like, what am I rooting to happen? Like I don't know. But yeah. Although, okay, let's see. Charlie St. Cloud was a good drama. The Lucky One, good little Nicholas Sparks drama. But other than that, like he hasn't really had that like breakout like drama. And I think he was like, yeah, this is gonna be it. And it was probably kind of a letdown that it went straight to Netflix. But
I'm sure it was, yeah.
But at least it's Netflix, which is like the biggest, I would say. Some like arguably like the biggest streaming service.
At least until Disney Plus.
Okay, real quick, I wanted
Just
to give
calling it like I see it.
Give some shout outs here, some comments. We got Donovan.
Oh yeah, read them. I was trying to pull it up, but on my phone, but then like I heard like the echoing, and I was like, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's what was going on. Yeah, you have to
basically have to mute the video, Katie.
Yeah, you have to mute the video. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going to try it again.
All right.
It's all good. Dragon's got it covered.
Point being, Donovan Martin says he's basically the personification of forbidden fruit. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. It's kind of
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And Demona B says, I'm kind of speaking to the Netflix of it all here. I'm kind of mad that we're not going to get the movie on Netflix Germany, specifically Netflix Germany. I believe that because she's local to Germany, which means she can't. Sometimes different areas of the world don't get everything on Netflix. So I'm assuming that means that extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile will not be going on Netflix in Germany, which is unfortunate.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, that is a bummer.
So I know certain things are available, like in the UK, and they're not available here, and like something. Again, it's kind of a
trade. Right, yeah.
Anyway,
also, just Demona, nice to see you back. Welcome back,
Demona B.
Yeah, Demona. All right.
Exactly. All right. Okay, one last thing I got here in terms of the background. A little eerie fact here. Are you ready? A little spooky fact.
Oh, God. Yeah. Spooky. All right.
So, Sundance, as I mentioned, this thing did go to Sundance. And it went to Sundance on a very particular day. It went to Sundance in Utah, by the way, which, of course, Utah, oddly enough, I believe this, when we're talking about High School Musical, is when Zac Efron shot some of that.
And it's where he went. And it's where Ted Bundy went to law school.
Exactly,
and if you watch the tapes, he like started getting involved in like the church there. Weirdly enough.
Yes, and there's one other thing. Basically, it's in Utah, which in itself has Bundy connections, as Katie's said there. And it was screened, I believe, January 24th, and that day is very specific.
Was that like the day of his first murder or something?
No, that's 30 years to the day he fried.
You know what's another weird thing about Utah?
What?
I was born there.
Oh my God!
I was born in Salt Lake City when my dad was doing his residency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not Mormon, but my parents lived there for a minute. And
I want to travel to Salt Lake City for one specific roller coaster and a very small amusement park. So
Taffy City.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, well, as far as the background goes, I guess we should kind of dive right into the Bundy of it all there.
All right. So let's talk about Ted and Liz XOXO. Oh, don't they make a cute couple?
I don't know about you guys, but I have a good feeling about these two crazy kids. I think they're gonna put. I mean, look at them. Just look at them right now. How can you not look at this and just say, "Oh my God, it's like married life all over"?
Oh my God! Oh no! Okay, we're going too far. Don't bring married life into this. Don't bring married life into this.
Okay, the point being,
that's
like, look
too
at this.
far, buddy.
Anyway, the point being, like, look at this happy family picture. There's nothing wrong with this picture at all. There's no foreboding sense of danger at all in this. I can't see anything. Look at that.
See, I wanted more of those moments with like the knife, and it's like, ooh, that's creepy. Wow.
Hey, there are two moments of that knife. Okay, there's that there, and there's when he's like making that dinner early on. There's like the first scene. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, you're right.
Right when she wakes up and she's like, oh, where is he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Breakfast.
All right, so I do like how the it's got an interesting structure to it where we start off with, you know, essentially we kind of like do a wraparound back to the hacksaw scene, where the first scene we get is the beginning of the hacksaw scene, and the hacksaw scene almost serves as like a bookend for the whole film. So I thought that was a really good plot structure, I will admit.
The editing and the pacing is the thing was one of my favorite things in the movie, because especially on a rewatch, literally, like they blow through the plot so quick.
You know, I think on a rewatch I'd appreciate the pacing a little more.
Just think about it. It's like we just kind of go like cut, and like we're not wasting any time, because like, you know, these events happening, and we do tease up that we kind of cut a little bit back and forth between the hacksaw setup, and we kind of interject in a few places. But again, when we get back to the past, though, it's like, okay, we're just really straightforward. Okay, Ted's in trouble. We have like the newspaper headline, then the trial. It's like all really straightforward.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It very much goes from like, you know, it cuts very quickly from like, you know, we see the storybook romance start to unfold, and then we see the legal trouble kind of like unfold right away. It kind of happens at a breakneck pace. And then, I mean, through most of the movie, we get Liz in just kind of like this very sort of, you know, almost like she's like a prisoner psychologically more than anything else. That's how I would describe her. She's
kind of like it's almost like a Schrodinger's cat sort of thing, where again she's in a place where, again, whether Ted is a killer or not, she's in the place of not knowing if he's a killer or not. So she's in a prison of her own psyche that basically
right.
A little bit. Yeah.
And of course, as the movie goes on, we learn that she was the one that gave his name to the police, and that adds a whole other layer to it. I feel like that's going to come back cool on a rewatch as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't rewatched it, but I
nor have I, Katie. Nor have I.
I will, though.
The thing I forgot is that it's really trippy too. Is the fact that, you know, Ted was introduced into this little family here. Again, just, you know, single mom and essentially a newborn. Her daughter Molly was 1 year old at the start of things. Hence the little two on the cake here. Basically, he was there as this girl grew up until he essentially went away when everything got started and he's in prison. But before that happened, again, he was in this kid's life, and again, he was the surrogate father, and they build a life together. And the idea is, like, again, like, it's this, they build this happy life with this evil being done behind the scenes. And, you know, that's what I'm talking about, like those scenes where, again, like Ted, he's just you have these.
It's almost like the evil is like his day job that we just don't talk about. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we don't talk about what Daddy does at work.
And again, with Liz's POV, again, I don't mean this sounding like a broken record, but I love that, again, it's all under her nose, and again, it's like stuff. It's like kind of stuff in real life. Then where we have things that go on, and later on you piece it together. But I just love that all the clues are there, but they're so subtle that, again, like, unless you know, like, oh yeah, you know exactly how Ted Bundy is, but again, if you're in her shoes, like, oh my God, you wouldn't notice it, but it's right there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very unexpected how like subtle they did everything. Yeah, because I was like, wait, are we sure he did it?
Exactly. Just the paranoia of, like, the what if to her too. Like, again, like, while you're thinking about all this, and then he's like, he's picking up the kid, like, yay, you know. It's, oh God, it's horrifying.
Yeah, I will say, like, in the beginning though, it was like creepy because you're like, oh, that's Ted Bundy. But yeah, then, like, the more you're watching it from,
I feel like the movie does lure you into, like, a false sense of security when it comes to that.
Yeah. Because, like, I didn't know that, like, that he was like, oh, they had my name and they're just like framing me. I didn't realize like how much he denied it. That's the one thing that the movie kind of taught me.
It's so great how, again, the way Ted pulls the wool over your eyes is that, again, it frames it through the relationship where Ted is, Ted's essentially trying to balance both sides here. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too, where, I'm going to do my evil stuff on the side, and I'm gonna, he keeps deluding himself, thinking everything's gonna be fine because he keeps telling Liz, "Oh yeah, I got pulled over, and I got arrested for having really shady stuff in my trunk, but hey, it's gonna be fine. It's fine." And again, that's kind of what's getting her through things.
Fine.
Yeah,
I just had like a rope in there, like no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. It's all good.
Exactly. And these are the things that kind of contribute to her, again, like those signs were under her nose, and that's why she calls the police with that tip, and that adds that element of like guilt or her questioning her actions, where later like,
right, you see, that thing in particular reminded me of my mom. The whole idea of like, like she obviously knows that there's something up with this guy, but by the same token, even admitting it to anyone is going to kind of like send you into kind of the fit, because you don't want to admit that this guy that you feel is kind of like, a security blanket for you in a way is really, and honestly with my mom, much like I don't want to get into it with details, but she was raising my younger brother at the time, and this guy did kind of step in as a surrogate father. Again, I don't want to get into details with that, but suffice to say, it was a situation where it very much is like you do feel the guilt of like, no, I can't turn on him. Like in times where she does, it's like, oh my God, like what have I done? You know what I mean?
He's become a fixture and a constant.
Right. And it's just kind of like this never ending cycle.
And these promises are kind of like it's kind of Ted like digging his hooks into her metaphorically, where he's kind of digging these hooks in, and there's kind of, it's like, he's making all these promises to give her a sense of security. It's like, no, I can't leave that. And again, I can't, because again, I built so much trust and essentially built like a whole home movie montage of a life with the guy.
God.
And again, it's a really great home movie montage, by the way, again, with the editing and everything. It looks great. But I love, again, these great tells and these great foreshadows. Like the dog thing, I love the dog thing so much, where we have this.
Yeah, and that was like I read an article and it was like that was a liberty the movie took, and I'm like, man, I actually love that part because dogs have such a good sense of people.
Yeah, it's an old adage with the dog. The dogs and animals can sense evil. I mean, that's a gimme you can give the movie, because artistically, tell me that's not awesome. Where Ted Bundy's they're getting the dog, and that's the thing I've seen like all over the place ridiculously in that one Ted Bundy movie where I see it here, like, oh my God, they're doing it right here. We have this dog is initially barking at him, but then he stares it down and whimpers away. That's awesome.
Right.
And later on, when he's running away, the dog's barking at him as he's running away. Man, again, it's there, but it's not they're not going overboard with it. Like that's just the right amount of liberty to take. And the thing I love, again, later on when she's putting it together, they're not. There's like, again, all these bits, these micro bits where Ted's like acting like a dog, barking, kind of going for the biting motion, considering what he's known for with the women, with the biting and everything. It's like, oh my God, like that's truly horrifying.
Yeah, and for her to like call and give his name. Like, just because there is something in the paper of, like, his, that looks like kind of like him, and, like, I think, the same car, and maybe even, like, the name Ted came out, maybe. He had to have been doing something freaky in bed for, like, for her to have called the cops on him.
Well, we know what freaky thing he was doing in bed. He was, he had the flashlight under the sheets, of course.
Right. I know, but I know. But it had to have been like, I don't know, he had to have been something to her. Is that me just projecting?
I know some stuff that they actually cut out of the movie, because again, they wanted to present, again, a few liberties they took, again, strong liberty. Again, it's not that they didn't embellish, but they left a few things out. That's probably the most I can say in terms of like the thing they left out. I believe I think it's in the tell-all book. I think it's in there. I think Katie, you might be privy to this. I don't know, because it sounds like you know it is, but correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. But like they were in bed one night, and like he would do some violent things to her. Like he basically, what he'd do is he almost killed her once, where he basically he walled up, like, I forget if he walled up the fireplace or something. The point is like he lit the fireplace and somehow kind of left her in, almost like he tried to calm carbon monoxide her.
Oh, yikes.
Essentially. And again, I guess he got second thoughts or somehow she got out. But the point, like, he'd do a few sadistic things like that, but nothing like, I don't believe anything like on the nose violent. But the point being, like, he would do stuff like that, maybe like
right.
Once he's tried to poison her a couple times.
Ooh,
so again,
that's
he's done.
Scary.
But again, that would kind of disrupt the flow a little bit. But again, I'm not saying they couldn't have made it work, but it would have been it would have been maybe a more difficult sell in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But again, a real life thing. Again, it did happen. So obviously.
Yeah. That anyway. I mean, I don't think like we were missing anything by that not being in there because it was like, but yeah, I don't know. I liked it, but yeah, okay.
And again, like I just can't help but say again with these little foreshadows, again like Ted with the daughter right after the accusations, and he's picking up the girl. And again, I can't help but the thing that creeped me out while I was watching the movie, knowing Ted Bundy is Ted Bundy. It's like, oh god, Kimberly Leach was the one that they got him on with the 12-year-old girl in the car. It's like, oh god, and just considering he's frolicking with the daughter. Oh god, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
It is.
Well, I remember like after the very beginning of the movie, I think like when it like goes to like the title or whatever, and it's that picture of the three of them. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, did he actually have like a serious girlfriend with a daughter? Like that I did not know.
Neither did I.
And then I like paused it. And I'm like, wait, I gotta fact check this. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop because what if I hit a spoiler?
Okay, I've been there.
By what I don't know, you know.
A few comments from Demona B are actually quite interesting. I wanted to read real quick. One is like, who would cut a cake with a spoon? Basically saying, of course, anyone's going to cut the cake with a knife. But again, he's pointing that knife upwards and knowing it's Ted Bundy. But then she goes on to have the excellent thought, ew, what if it's a multi-purpose knife? What if that's the knife he uses at work? That's essentially what
God. Oh, God.
That is screwed up if you really think about it. The third point Demona makes here is, if a dog owner kills someone, he probably smells different to the dog, right? So it would not only be the sense of evil, be the smell of evil. It's kind of
I like that.
That is a very interesting and accurate point. And for something, well, I'll reveal on movie memoirs, but anyway.
Okay.
So anyway. Okay, so unless you guys have anything else you want to kind of weigh in on, like the Ted and Liz relationship.
No, I mean, like, I do like how as the movie goes on, we get, she gets more and more kind of, like, withdrawn from society, and we see her kind of, like, go into this dark hole of depression. And
alcoholism. And
yeah, and I think all that, again, not to get too personal, but it does kind of reflect what my mom went through.
Yeah. And, of course, I mean, the really interesting thing in the structure of all this is that while the trial's going on, we keep... Again, they made great use of the fact that Ted Bundy was a televised thing. That it was a thing that all over, and people knew this. And of course, the whole Bundy that came from someplace because it was televised and so publicized. And the fact of the matter is, I love that we keep her in play in the story, even though she's kind of outlived her usefulness to the story. Right
now. For sure.
Because they're kind of drifted apart. Again, she breaks up with him at an early point in all that. I believe before the second escape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was before the second one. Point being, all this happens, and she's kind of taken out of the story by that proxy. We're checking in with her as she's watching it on TV, and again, blaming herself for, oh my God, he's in all this because of me, and it may or may not be true. Like basically, she thinks like Ted. Again, it's not the same, but it's like she's thinking, oh my God, what if I'm responsible for essentially a season of Making the Murderer featuring Ted Bundy? Oh my God.
No.
Where in reality, not nowhere near the same thing, but essentially that's what the movie sells it as. Again, like as Katie said, we had that really, I believe it was either you or Tiki, but it was you had that bit earlier on where he's laying out the frame up of like, no, they showed her that picture twice. That's how she knew it was
Yeah.
Which is a thing. Again, Ted, being a law student, he has researched some stuff, and of course the false confessions and the false identifications. He knows a little bit of his stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of legalese and Ted on the run, let's talk about the escapes of Theodore Bundy.
All right. Okay, I'm just gonna be straight up and say it. The courthouse escape is the freaking corniest scene in the movie, and that's one of the scenes I would, if not cut, at least trim down.
Really? What part of it would you trim? Oh, when like the cop was like flirting with it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That was so dumb. That felt so TV movie to me.
Yeah.
And then it even had the music like, oh, that wacky Ted Bundy is escaping through the courthouse window.
Ted on the
I mean,
run.
that just did not work for me at all, man. That was like by far the scene in the movie that really just kind of stuck out to me. Is like, oh, what am I watching right now? Again, especially I hate to draw on it, but the deputy was he just came out of nowhere, man.
Yeah, I think like they had to do something because like he really did just jump out the window.
No, I know it's factually accurate. But
it is. It really is.
I don't know. I don't know how else.
I wish it wouldn't have been like he was distracted by a woman. Though I said that I wish he would have been distracted by something else.
What I remember, even. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead.
It's even funnier again. Sorry, you bring it up. Even in that Ted Bundy movie, that's like it's so funny you mentioned it being kind of alerted because again, him jumping from the window like that. It's they didn't put that in. They tried to complicate that in the 2002 movie because they just had him like because they said no, that's too much of a leap. I'm just jumping from one story to another. That's the leap.
What?
We're gonna do all this stuff, but that's the leap. It's just.
Oh God.
Anyway. But you know what I like about the whole guard thing, about the whole guard chatting up the late. I like that Ted.
Please tell me.
I love that Ted. Again, he kind of spots that in other people though. Again, he kind of he's spotting that in somebody else. Someone else taking interest in a woman, and he can kind of use that to his advantage. It's kind of like smelling your own, sort of, so to speak. I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting.
That makes sense.
I think it's a bit of a leap, but
Well, then again, so is the escape. So I think it kind of works.
Fair enough. I guess with the escape, I just kind of wish they hadn't played it so wacky.
Well, let me tell you one. I'm sorry. There's one other thing about that escape to it. On a rewatch, really, I thought it really impressed me. I didn't consider the first time. Is that I think Ted Bundy really you saw him rehearse that escape. He planned on that because remember he practiced jumping from the cell and everything, and again one of the benefits of being your own lawyer is that you have access to that area, to that
of course,
area, and he would be kind of allowed carte blanche and be able to call him all that sort of stuff. So again, he's planning that, and that's kind of an added reason maybe why he became his own lawyer. And
I'm sure it was part of it. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Of course, he when he jumps in that window, he hurts his leg for the whole duration of the movie. He has that limp afterwards and that leg brace. It's. Like
ironically, I feel like that's a good bit of irony considering the fake casts and everything.
I also like the shaving and everything. Again, planning the whole again he has that chameleon face going on there. The idea is that Ted Bundy he has a face that again he can make the slightest alteration. He almost has it's almost like a Bill Bixby effect where it's like David Banner can go around just like with a different last name. No one's ever going to notice it's the same guy. Just a stranger walking into a town. By the way, in another life thing, I'm sorry, just going to say a weird tangent, but again. In a perfect world, we would have gotten the Ted Bundy biopic way back one featuring Bill Bixby as Ted Bundy. That would have been perfect. But anyway, that's the only way you beat Bill Bixby. The original David Banner from the Incredible Hulk show in the 70s.
Oh.
Anyway, that's my own little fan. That's my fan casting that never will be. But point being, so Ted, we see him as kind of a smooth talking law student. He's I think the fatal flaw of Ted Bundy that we kind of see in these escapes and acting as his own lawyer and everything kind of comes into play later on is that he overestimates his intelligence, but he makes up with the charm and the ego fueling his drive to accomplish these escapes. It's like only a guy it takes guts to jump out of a window from that high up and expect to run away afterwards. That's a guy has the ego. I'm going to be able to pull this off. Again, it's kind of a stupid
Colorado. Where it's like there's mountains everywhere. Where are you gonna
go? Known for being rocky, known for don't jump from high places.
Yeah, but it's like where if you hurt your ankle, you can't climb a mountain. I don't know.
One of the things I kept seeing in the movie too, I always liked was Ted Bundy. He had the ego that every time he was pulled over, bear in mind it's a different time, but by the same token, still not a smart play. He always gets out of the car convinced he can talk the cop out of giving him a ticket.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Every time he stopped, he gets out of the car and says, "Hey, officer, listen, I'm sorry, it's late."
I will say, when he punched that cop, I think the second time he got pulled over, after he escaped, and then I was like, that's the first thing we've seen him do bad the whole movie.
Oh God!
Yeah, and she's not wrong. Yeah.
And I know you were saying you were like appreciate that, but I just wish we would have seen more of like that degree of you're like, oh, okay, it's a little something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Katie. I think there could have been a better balance drawn of like, you know, like little bits throughout the movie that kind of put you on guard. Like, I feel like the movie could have accomplished basically the same goal that it set out to achieve with this whole kind of like domestic relationship drama spin on Ted Bundy, but still given it, I mean, honestly, Dragon, like I don't really like the movie Phantom Thread, but Daniel Day-Lewis has way more disturbing moments in Phantom Thread than Zac Efron has in this movie.
Fair enough.
And I'm just saying, that's not even a movie that's advertised to be a horror movie, and Daniel Day-Lewis is very off-putting in that movie.
I feel like we got us.
Well, one could say the same for Lincoln. Which basically, when they were shooting Lincoln, they just come up to him, oh my God, the guy's just taking it so seriously. He's calling himself Lincoln.
Okay, Daniel Day-Lewis was not off-putting in Lincoln. That's
no. I know he's not off-putting in Lincoln. I mean, like he's off-putting in the making of Lincoln, where you should walk up to the guy and he thinks he's Abraham Lincoln.
All right, fair enough.
Anyways, so let's talk about the second escape. We have, of course, BRB peace. By the way, so he's just writing that all. Be right back peace all over the things with a little peace sign. We left it for the guard. He was chatting up the lady. Anyway, so the cell. For me, the way he escapes from the cell is still really ingenious. That's the famous one. Like, oh man, like the leap out the window is just crazy.
Yeah.
This is well
so
planned.
I thought he like lost a bunch of weight to get out of there.
He did.
Oh, okay. Because when I was watching the documentary, it was like he dropped the 20 pounds when he was like in Colorado, like when he was after he escaped the first time because he was just like malnourished.
Yeah,
but I thought but I thought he lost that weight when he was in jail to sneak out of the vent, but he had already lost it, right?
There's nothing saying that it. I don't think it could have been. I think it could have been a little bit of both. Because again, he was on the run. He was in disarray when he was found. He was a little kind of skinny looking. But I'd imagine, like again, if he's planning on an escape, he's not going to take the meals. I think it's kind of implied. But I mean, fair point. I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I was like, did I get my facts twisted? Because I knew he got married in jail too, but then I thought it was. I didn't realize it was to Carol. So there, like, I will say, watching the movie, it made me be like, oh, I got that wrong in my Florida State days.
Yeah.
So again, I love him plotting the escapes. I don't know, it's just me being a sucker for stuff like Catch Me If You Can. Just I love it, or just like this, or like Philip Morris, like the story of that guy, like the ultimate con artist who could escape prison just by dyeing his uniform a different color. Like I don't know, I love it. Again, it's very much. I shouldn't say I love it because again, Ted Bundy does give you kill people after this one because that's not good.
Right. It's like yeah, go Ted, you escape, you show those cops. All right.
No, but I love how it was shot. Let me put it this way: I love how that well it was shot. Where again, you see him like strategizing. Okay, he's going to lose the weight, and he sees like the minute he was put in the cell because we had like the shark. Remember, he had like the Thrasher shark little picture that she drew in that restaurant that he just kind of has on the he has on the wall, like the one little person. Again, it makes it again. That's deliberately to make you think, oh man, he's not all bad. That Ted Bundy, look at him. He's got the little picture that Molly drew for him. He's being set up. F the system, man. Like no, of course it's not the case at all. But he's the minute that we see that in the cell, and we see what his focus is on, or at least possibly what his focus is on, and then he's looking up at the wall, and the lights, the light fixtures kind of blinking out, and then he hears the pipes and everything. Basically, kind of figures, okay, when the shower's going, I'm gonna saw through it. I'm gonna saw through the roof, and I'm gonna like that little carve a little cube for myself. I'm gonna get out of there, and he did.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's shit cray. It's like you can't rate this stuff, but it's so crazy that he actually did it.
Absolutely. And
I think that's probably what they were going through for too. Is like to put the craziest things in there and. People would have to be like, that didn't actually happen, and then you're like, oh, fuck, it did.
What did you guys think of the Detective Fisher? Because I like to think that they cast a skeezy-looking guy to kind of make you, in some subconscious way, root for Ted Bundy when you shouldn't. I know, I can.
Again, sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think they made the
Well, honestly, I think
the
they
Florida like governor seem like one of those back alley like Southern hit guys. Like you're gonna fry here.
The sheriff.
And
sheriff. Yeah.
and I know what they were going for, but for me, I was like, fuck yeah, Florida, take him down. Because Florida gets such a bad rap. And I was just like, that's one thing.
Hey man, Florida has Disney World. That's all I care about. Like Florida rocks.
Gotta be honest, me too. I mean, don't believe what the Florida Project movie tells you. Florida, it's a happy place.
I fully believe naively that if I lived in Florida, it'd just be fucking Disney World like 3 times a week.
When I was a kid, I was like, "Can we just live here?" But
right. Anyways.
Anyway, sorry, back up.
I'm still kind of in the "can we just live here" phase, honestly.
But anyway, so what I do like too, by the way, I like that basically Liz breaking up with Ted, and basically all the stuff that transpires predominantly in Florida. Basically, Florida is Ted's slow death. It starts with Liz breaking up, and that's kind of like the slow death of Florida. No pun intended. But it's just kind of the slow. It's just kind of the slow death.
The senior citizen slowly dying.
Oh yeah.
That image of Florida is anyways.
I'm trying not to linger on it, but yeah. Yes. But yes, and that's kind of the idea. We're again Ted again. We knowing where it pays off. We know where it pans out with Ted Bundy with the chair and getting the chair and everything. Again, it's kind of like Ted just kind of causing his own demise inch by inch as things are happening here. Again, just Liz being again kind of a symbol of his life. Again, the life that he wanted to. Again, Ted Bundy, a guy who kind of embraces death and life, and with that kind of dual thing he was having at the start of the movie here with Liz and Molly, and of course on the flip side, taking lives of other women who probably could live on that family. So it's really bleak when you look at it that way. That's true. So yeah, and so by the way, one other thing too. I love how we build up the violence of Ted Bundy with the news, because that's the thing. So we frame it. We have Liz kind of framing up the story here. Liz gets the whole like, I was framed story, and she's watching this unfold in the TV as we the audience are also seeing it play on the TV. All these like horrific acts of violence being described about the campuses, about the because I believe this was the time when he escaped from this cell. I believe that's where he hit the house, the campus on Florida. Am I remember that correctly, Katie?
The sorority house?
Yes, the sorority house. Yeah,
that was at Florida State. Yeah,
I believe this escape is when that happened. So, so there was consequence. I like the detective kind of reminded Liz of that. And of course, Liz has a relationship with this detective in terms of this is the guy who got the confession, who got the tip. Right.
Yes.
All right.
So let's talk about the courtroom drama. So you guys were mentioning, like intentional typecastings where it's like they cast this person to be unlikable against Bundy. Dragon, do you know where I'm going with this with my personal dislike of said actor?
Do you not like Jim Parsons?
Shame him, Katie. Shame him like there's no tomorrow.
Why don't you like him?
I cannot stand Sheldon Cooper as a character.
Well, I don't like his character, but Jim Parsons is great.
Okay, look, I've seen Jim Parsons be really good in other things. All right, that's totally fair. That's totally valid. But Sheldon Cooper is the thing that I see when I see that man, and so and I'm sure I'll grow out of that. I'm sure once the big.
I think you will too. I think you'll know that's not him. That's just a role he had to take because it was going to make him, pay the bills. Number one, but also number two, make him a name so he could do whatever he wanted.
You could always just go to Man or a Muppet if you wanted like a happier version of Jim Parsons.
That's very fair. But all I'm saying in this context is I cannot stand Sheldon Cooper. So basically throughout this movie, I'm thinking Sheldon Cooper is the, is the prosecutor. Yeah, he's the prosecuting attorney. Fuck Sheldon Cooper.
But did you like him? Were you like, yeah, put that man away? Or no, you were like, fuck him.
I was like, fuck him for bringing up these points, honestly. He's right. God damn it, Sheldon Cooper. Why do you have to be so intelligent?
Ah, so you really were on Ted's side then.
Well, I'm saying I'm on Ted's side compared to Sheldon Cooper, all right? I'm not much of an anti-Sheldon Cooper person.
Folks, you heard it here first.
Jesus.
I cannot. Sheldon Cooper is just, anyways.
Your congressman, folks. Anyway, so.
He plays a similar character to this in Hidden Figures.
Oh, I know. And I like him in Hidden Figures. Yeah, I agree.
He plays kind of the dick. But the dick that you kind of like root for, kind of.
Yeah.
But I really rooted for him in this.
Oh, Lee Berman variety.
Sheldon was supposed to be in the early days of The Big Bang Theory, but then they just completely like butchered his characters that show went along, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, sorry, Katie. He played in Big Bang Theory issues. I don't like.
I'm not a fan of that show, but I can appreciate the actors on it.
No, and I hear you. And like I said, I just think the difference between you and me is like you're not a fan, but I just have seething hatred for Big Bang Theory. So.
Yeah, no, I'll always like him. He used to come into the restaurant where I worked, and he was always really, really nice.
Oh,
so
nice. Yeah. Look, I'm not saying if I passed Jim Parsons on the street, I'd be like, "Hey, Sheldon Cooper, thanks for basically giving the worst nerd blackface performance ever. Thanks for giving."
Oh, is that why you had such a?
Yeah, he's good. Well, it's just one of many issues.
Give nerds like a bad name. Is that why you don't like it?
That is fully. I mean, it's not even. It's a little bit of that it gives nerds a bad name. It's a little bit that it makes it's very selective with what they are nerds about and what they aren't nerds about, and that just kind of bothers my OCD. It's a whole myriad of issues, Katie. If we started talking about it, it'd be
okay, sorry.
Just trust me on this.
I'm gonna close this can of worms. Get Pandora back in the box.
All right. I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen as soon as I saw Jim Parsons. I was like, God damn it, Jim Parsons. Now I'm gonna have to talk about the Big Bang Theory stuff with Katie and probably gonna go on a tangent.
Anyways, well, Dragon, what did you think about Jim Parsons?
I thought it was fine, really. I didn't really anything uber remarkable.
Yes, he didn't blow me away or anything, and I am kind of like exaggerating and being silly about the whole like, oh, fuck you, Jim Parsons.
Well, let me put it this way. In all seriousness, though, I did get to see Jim Parsons in a bit of a new light with this because I don't see him in roles like this that often. Again, Hidden Figures being kind of the closest thing I've kind of seen him in recent. Years. I've just kind of seen Jim Parsons do more of kind of like a straightforward, dramatic thing. And again, he was pretty solid, just giving the opening statements and everything. He just kind of laid it out in front of you guys. He's done. Ted Bundy's done terrible things. There are a lot of innocent people. We got to put a stop to this. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So Malkovich.
Yes, the great John Malkovich.
I love this dynamic. Malkovich is just like right up front. It's like he's got maybe 10 minutes of screen time, but he owns every second of it. It's like, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna cut you off by all means.
All right, it's like right off the bat, he's just like, okay, look, kid, like I know what you're trying to do, and it's not going to work on me. And the best I'm going to give you is like kind of like a pinch your cheek, like, oh, isn't it adorable seeing like the little kid serial killer in the room try to act like an adult? Isn't that cute?
Yep. But I will, and I thought it was like I thought some of the lines he had, I was like, oh god. But then they actually like showed clips from the trial, and it's like that's actually what he said.
Right.
It is. See, that's the thing going into this movie. My favorite thing with the Ted Bundy stuff is probably like because the thing it just shows my favorite thing about the Bundy charm, as it were, is that in the courtroom you get to see like the charm in full effect. Where, oh my god, he's winning over the judge. Oh my god. Where again, like Judge Coward. Again, bear in mind, Malkovich does not look like the guy, but he does act and sound like the guy. Again, it's in terms of just and he captures what that guy was in those tapes of the trial, where he is he's folksy as all get out, and I love the folksiness of the judge. You know, he's all he calls him partner. I love it. And again, that's the thing where again he is impressed by Ted Bundy, and of course he doesn't condone everything, but by the same time, it's like Bundy knows his stuff when it counts, and the judge can't really refute this. Like, oh man, the judge underestimated him. to an extent. Where again, usually again the famous, the old adage in the legal community is always the only a fool represents himself. That old thing, that old chestnut. Right. And he represents himself. And again, I don't know if this is the big. I doubt this was the big first case with a serial killer, but it could have been. Bear in mind again, it's like a big someone it just it's kind of unprecedented. Like a serial killer being able to question the victims and the experts who are just talking to you. Well, when I'm going to match these teeth marks to you, and it's just a trippy experience, and the judge is kind of rolling with it, and again just trying to be fair. And we've got to remember though, throughout this whole trial, Bundy, his big approach legally is that he's deflecting from the horror because he knows that he's gonna be crucified once the jury finds out all the horrific stuff that he's done. That's why he's being playful and listing all these various objections. Again, they kind of cut this out of the movie, but or they didn't shoot. Doesn't matter. Point being, you see this more in the Ted Bundy tapes. He raised all sorts of ridiculous objections of there's not enough light in my cell to read the.
You documents. Do see that one objection moment. I thought that kind of illustrated that point well.
That's what I'm saying, but there are more ridiculous ones. It's like a filibuster within the courtroom. He's trying to draw it out and just kind of deflect as much as he can. But yeah, we do have some really good ones.
Right.
Yeah, I wish they would have done more of those. Because the moment where he was like, when I say object, you fucking object.
Yeah. That was a good moment. Yeah.
My favorite bit that they got in the movie though was the pointing the finger. Don't you point your finger at me? Because that's the thing. Kind of if I were in the lawyer's position, and because I gesture a lot. And what if I pointed the judge and the judge said that to me, I would have bricked my pants. I would have oh my god, oh Lord, what?
Oh god,
I've pointed at the judge and I don't know if I'm going to be able to stop.
Oh God!
No. I will say the judge when they showed the clips of the actual judge, he had such a Southern accent, and I know John Malkovich is great or whatever, but
John Malkovich, he plays John Malkovich. I mean,
I wish they would have.
The dude stopped trying around the early 2000s.
But you gotta love him though. It's kind of like a Jack Nicholson.
I loved him. I loved him, but I was like, oh, that's something they changed. But I was okay with it. But if it hadn't been him and it had just been someone else famous who was not doing a Southern good old boy judge, I would have been pissed. But because it's him, he got away with it. I'll say that. But how'd they put fucking Clooney or something? No.
Oh God, if Clooney was in, I could totally see that.
I'd be okay with.
Yeah.
That wouldn't play at all.
It's just I loved how they had the Florida and I don't know. I actually love that, and I know it's just because I'm from there.
Yeah.
It's basically the dynamic's kind of it's a bizarro version of My Cousin Vinny, where again you have that growing dynamic within the movie. But what if we just reverse right from the get go? We liked them, If it was okay, I like to respect this boy here. All right.
Yep. All right.
Let's see.
Any other points we want to hit about the trial?
I already mentioned Ken Caceres, the sheriff, having that scene in the cell, and of course also I want to say we did get some really good actors playing our lawyers, by the way. I just wanted to kind of highlight them real quick. We have Dylan Baker as in the initial trial, the whole kidnapping trial from earlier on.
Of course. Katie, do you know the significance of Dylan Baker in geek culture? I'm going to test you. I'm going to pop quiz you on this one.
No, I don't.
Dragon?
He's in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies as Dr. Curtis Connors, who basically the reason he kind of signed on to those movies.
Wait, which Spider-Man?
The Sam Raimi ones, the
2 and 3, Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. He plays the one-armed doctor.
Oh, the Tobey Maguire ones?
Yeah, the Tobey Maguire ones. Yeah.
Oh, wait, the guy who's Dr. Octagon or whatever? Wait. I'm talking about that.
Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock, but yes.
No, the guy who becomes the lizard.
Yeah.
But the ironic thing is that he never actually became the lizard in the Sam Raimi.
But he was so looking forward to being the lizard.
Yeah.
That doctor character, Peter Parker's teacher, Tobey Maguire's teacher in those movies, the one who the college professor. Peter Parker.
Yeah, the one that's if you just try Peter or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Him.
Yes.
And the third one, he gives him the symbiote.
They were setting him up to be the guy, the lizard guy, and then I guess Toby was like, "Sorry, I'm done after 3," and they're like, "Fuck, I can't write that in."
They cast a different guy as the lizard when they rebooted it. It's like that's the ultimate.
And then that guy who played the lizard was just very, very, very underwhelming.
Well, I mean, again, that's
I thought he was great. Wasn't it him? Oh no, he gets killed. That's Emma Stone's dad. I don't know. I haven't watched the Andrew Garfield ones as much.
Yeah, Dennis Leary was probably one of the bright spots of the Andrew Garfield movies, if I'm being honest.
I think it's Matthew Reese or something.
Especially in the second one, because Dennis Leary's just like running around like, "Oh, I'm Dennis Leary's ghost." Ooh.
Anyway, so Amazing Spider-Man 2 aside.
Sorry. Okay. Yes.
Ooh, Peter, I'm spooky.
I've placed who the first lawyer was. Continue.
All right, so he played. I believe Dylan Baker played the first prosecutor, and he had Jeffrey Donovan as the original lawyer for Bundy before he took on his own cause. There, so Jeffrey, not the one that he kicks off the case, but the one who said, "No, I can't cover you. I can't. You're going to Colorado. I don't have the license."
Did you lie to someone by?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Jeffrey Donovan. He was in. Jeffrey Donovan was. Sorry, Jeffrey Donovan was. He was in.
What is that?
Yeah, wait.
Did you hear that? It sounds like a dog.
What now?
There's a noise in your background.
I don't know. I don't hear any dog barking. Do you hear it now?
It was like a moan. It was like, oh. Anyways, no.
I don't know.
I don't hear it anymore.
Weird.
Anyway.
Right.
Anyways.
Well, let me know if it comes back.
Will.
Yeah, I have no idea what that was.
Well, that's all right. I didn't mean to say I didn't want to call him out on it, but that's why I was getting all flustered earlier when I was talking about that woman analogy with Ted Bundy. I was here like, oh my God, is there a ghost in here?
I know. It's like it sounds like a dog whining.
All right, well, guys, if that happens in the future, just let me know. Let me know. All right.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
He's gutsier than I am. Okay. Anyway, so Jeffrey Donovan, he was the lead in Burn Notice. You remember Burn Notice at all? Bruce Campbell show?
Yes, I know of it.
He was the lead. He was the guy who got the Burn Notice. That was so he played the lawyer. He looks so different with a beard now.
Yeah, this movie had a lot of good fucking actors in it.
It did.
Definitely did. Malkovich included, yeah.
All right.
Let's see.
He was the most pissed that it didn't get a theatrical release. He's like, I come back for a cameo and it's on Netflix.
Poor Malky. But yeah, so also we have the big scene where he plays off the indictment in the press.
John Malkovich is probably used to being in Netflix movies at this point because he was also in Bird Box.
Oh,
yeah.
Maybe I wonder if he's under. I wonder if they do it like they did old Hollywood, where you're under contract. With the studio.
God!
I wonder if that's you have him under contract for a certain number of movies, and they get him in for a certain number. I don't know.
Could be.
So with the Bundy charm, real quick, I wanted to bring up one other point. Remember the indictment scene where, again, there's a big thing where Bundy, he's basically making a big show here where the sheriff, the sheriff is saying, I'm gonna get you, Bundy. You're gonna fry in Florida.
I love that. I actually loved that part. Am I alone in that?
You mean the part where he's talking to the press?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah. Or just say, hey, I've been withheld. I'm gonna have my chance to talk here, and he was going on, speaking a big show. Oh yeah, you said you were gonna get.
Honestly, that's a good example of moments that I would have liked to see more of, kind of the more unhinged but still charming in a way.
There was one really good bit that was Katie, you know this, but it was a really good bit. It was in the Bundy tapes that they didn't have here, and there's one disappointment I had in terms of things they left out personally. The thing with Ken Gaceres, again, that's the sheriff. So Ken Gaceres, he walked in the cell, literally in that scene, in the scene where he told me he's going to fry. Then they came in, they took the dental impressions and everything. Remember?
Yeah.
The way it happens in the tapes, the way it happened in real life was, he did stop by and told me you're going to fry here, that sort of thing. And then right after that, he says, and Ted, I'm going to bring in these men right now. And basically all the guys, they show up, but not quickly, oh my God, they swooped in there. It doesn't go like this. They walk in there and they put him in a dentist chair. And Ted freaked out because he knew the dental thing was going to be his undoing. So he's kind of freaking out. And he says, Ted, and they bring I guess cattle prods and stuff. And he's like, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, essentially. And Ted then switches and he pulls a switch right in front of his eyes. Says, Ken, you don't need that. Take what you need.
Yeah.
He turned on the Bundy charm right in front of him there because he didn't want to be cattle prod or hurt her anyway.
Right.
Yikes.
Yeah. Whereas in the movie, it's like he's like, "Oh, what's going on? Oh."
Pretty much.
Oh
dear, I'm Zac Efron. I'm innocent.
I will say that part. I was like, oh, Zac. You know what I mean? Like, there were times when I was like, "Ooh, yeah, he's playing a good Ted Bundy." And I mean, as someone who really loves him, I'm like, I'm never really gonna actually ever really forget that it's him. But yeah, that part where he's like being interviewed, and it's in the tapes too, when he has like the beard, and yeah, it's like, oh, I was like, oh yeah, he looks like Ted there. Like, good job, Zac. He didn't have as much of the evil like laughs as they do in the tapes, I'll say, but he still was like, oh yeah, this is where I really I could feel Ted. But yeah, that part where they just like bum rush him with the teeth, and he's like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, oh, that's like I've lost Ted again.
Yeah.
And they're doing that. They're doing that right there because again, they want you on a side, like, oh no, poor Efron Bundy.
Oh, Efron Bundy. Oh god. Yeah. Hashtag Efron Bundy.
I guess.
Oh man.
Basically, so ultimately, Bundy's big fatal flaw is that again he abuses his poor public defender that he does. He has a co-counsel as a public defender, and the guy tries to talk him into a plea bargain, and he says like, no, my counsel is ineffective. I do not intend on taking this plea. And basically says, he curses him out. He says, oh, F you, man, like, I'm out of here. It's like, I want to resign. As this guy's like, try to save him from the death penalty, which again would have played in Ted's favor. And by the way, like during the trial, there'd be points where he would tell. Basically, he would give Ted really good advice. The lawyers they were discrediting some witness. Again, like these co-counsels doing an excellent job. Mm-hmm. But again, Bundy has to be in the spotlight because he knows. I guess he's convinced himself he needs to deflect and steal his own spotlight, which kind of again that's his undoing. His charm will only get him so far. And again, once those horrors come out, and again, that's kind of what the movie posits too, because we don't know the horrors till the very end. But that's kind of what the trial's all about. Mm-hmm. Once you know those horrors, it's curtains for him, and he knows that. Like. Mm-hmm. The creepiest part for me is the teeth mark evidence, which, by the way, a little fun fact: Zac Efron, a little bit like Rami Malek with Freddie Mercury, had the word dentures for this movie.
Yeah, Zach they're too perfect. Yeah.
He has to have the jacked up Bundy teeth.
Yeah, because that's how he got caught.
Exactly.
Because and I love this day and age where you have so much. Evidence. Yeah, it was the teeth marks.
Yeah, I forget how I believe it used to be back in the day odontology was much more accepted than it is now. Odontology is kind of the cherry on top evidence before it's like it's not the killer, it's not the foundation you want to build any trial on it. But I think it's how it goes today. But point being, I love that way back when. The point that Bundy's making, again, while as absurd as it sounds, again, I could buy that, wow, he might be able to actually go with this here, where again, like he asked the cadaver question, like, I'm sorry, you did these tests on a cadaver, not living flesh. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yeah. All right. So, anything else about the trial dragon?
No. I mean,
he gets married.
A transition.
Yeah,
that went down.
Yeah, let's use that as our jumping off point. Let's talk about Ted and Carol Ann. A love story for the 80s. Is that how
it went down? Did he just declare they were married while she was on the stand?
It absolutely did. The only difference was it was in front of it because the idea is there were a couple trials going because he killed so many people. So basically, I believe it was primarily 2 trials, and during the second trial, that's where he didn't have the folksy judge in front of him. That's the one liberty they took with that. But he did. It went down exactly like that, though.
Wow, and he probably did that to seem more charming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And then I wonder why, he had him having all the young girls that are just I don't think he did it.
That's true.
His trial. I remember hearing about that when I was growing up, and I was
he basically was appealing to the shippers. Before shipping was a thing.
And this is a real life
Yeah.
thing, not just for Ted Bundy, but it is a real life thing with many, even convicted killers. Like you always have like the fan mail and the marriage requests and the relationships coming in through like through letters and correspondence in prisons even today. It still goes on. Women love, especially death row too. Death row is the biggest place for that because again, I guess they want to bring some love. And honestly, death row is kind of like, I guess for a woman is technically, again, assuming conjugal visits. I assume assuming conjugal visits are on the table is kind of a, I guess, would suit a lot of people's relationship quota. Where okay, you can have a relationship, and of course, you don't have to worry about breakup or like any of the big long-term questions because
Oh God! Oh, that's awful.
It's morbid, but what other logic can there be when you really think about it?
It's like Jim Carrey dating a cancer patient and kidding.
Yes, but that was far. Thinking that logic and was more compelling. Anyway, so kidding aside, no, literal kidding aside. Anyway,
God.
That's the thing that does happen on that show, Katie. Look it up. It's a fantastic show.
One of the best, Katie, one of the best series to watch.
I love me some Jim Carrey.
Yeah, but speaking of which, by the way, the fans...
I would say arguably Jim Carrey's crowning performance.
It might be. It really might be. Anyway, so again, we're not talking about the masterpiece that is King. I use masterpiece instead of but it's pretty much masterpiece.
And Barry is also a masterpiece, but we don't want to talk about that right now either.
But because we saw the finale. Yes. Okay. So I love. By the way, speaking of another Florida thing here, real quick, is I love that and the judge's response, like the fan club of all the women in the gallery of the courtroom, just like they're always like he's basically proposes, he gets married, and like they're all like wooing and like doing the wave practically. This is not Flipper and Friends. This is not Flipper and Friends. It's SeaWorld. This is a capital murder case.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But again, like that was an improv, by the way, the Flipper and Friends thing. But it was a hilarious one. That sounds like that judge might make that reference. I buy it. I don't know. I buy it.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I can see it.
Yeah.
All right. So Carol Ann.
Carol Ann. They addressed this, but they didn't quite. They didn't linger a lot on it. The idea Ted Bundy knew this one, if I'm remembering correctly. Ted Bundy worked on a suicide hotline with her.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
they said like they worked together on like a crisis hotline or something. They didn't specify that it was a suicide hotline. That's the creepy thing when people found out. Oh my God, this guy who deals in death was helping people through suicide.
Right.
Yeah, that's That's also fucking creepy. I didn't realize that's where they met.
Thematically, what I really like about this, though, I like that again. They're connected. Again, Ted Bundy. Some of those prominent relationships in this movie are forged in part with death. And again, Carol Ann was the one that really took. And again, he had a baby with this lady. The fact that, again, they are connected via death. Again, a child is spawned through the fact after he is. We focus on the show where we reveal like as he's being sentenced. He's put on death row, and in doing so, of course, we remind ourselves, oh my God, Carol Ann's pregnant again. A relationship forged on death.
Mm-hmm.
New life forged on death. Oh, that's pretty good and thematic.
Whoa, that's beautiful.
Like the only way Ted Bundy tried to have his cake and eat it too, with having life and death simultaneously with Liz. So again, the Carol Ann was Carol Ann in some respects is the more perfected version of Carol Ann. Kind of Carol Ann on Ted's level, essentially. It's kind of like a relationship that can be.
Carol Ann was the strategic relationship, whereas Liz was where his heart was.
Of course it was. Well, I mean, that's how the movie made it seem. I wonder, like, how real that was. But yeah,
I know one thing. I know them like him slipping the guard a couple bucks and then basically conceiving off to the side there. Again, that because it was breaking the rules. He wasn't supposed to touch anyone he was visiting with. Conjugal.
And we get that as a runner too. So yeah, that was definitely meant to be a good kind of build up.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the real question is like, why here's a question of why did Ted like her so much? I think that's the interesting question. I think, for me.
Well, in the movie, and again, who knows how accurate this is because I didn't look this up, but he's trying to call Lily Collins' character so much, and she's just not having it. And he's like, okay, well, who else can I call that will be here for me? I think he needed someone. Even
with Carol, he's still calling Liz. So again, I think that's really telling.
Yeah.
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 And I like that with that relationship. Again, he's breaking the rules for that relationship, and basically Ted. The only relationships that Ted Bundy seems to be able to have are either on his own terms with the way he was doing it with Lizzie, and while it was working for the time being, again, he could have everything and do both things simultaneously. And he's breaking the rules to be with Carol, and both. Again, deep down, if you want to look at kind of the serial killer's modus operandi and all that stuff, it's the fact that Ted Bundy is exercising power and control in these relationships.
Yeah.
It's a way of looking at it. So, so ultimately, I like that. And the one bit with Liz too, with the phone call, is that Liz, I thought it was fascinating how upset Liz got that she didn't get the Haley Joel Osment character, Jerry, I think his name was Jerry, kept the phone call away because Ted's on the line. He says, "Can you give Liz a message for me? Can you tell her that I love her?" And says, he tells him not to call here anymore. He keeps that from her. And of course, on the trial on TV, he sees him, he sees Ted, literally marry Liz in the courtroom. Sorry, marry Carol in the courtroom. And Liz is disturbed by this, and she's upset. She asks, because then she's putting two and two together, like, oh my god, did he call? And of course, she's haunted by the fact that if he called, that maybe she would have been able to stop it. And even still, she wants to be with him.
Yeah,
all this is going on.
Well, she feels like they had this connect. Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Right. But again, who knows? Well, although I do believe that, because if she wrote the book, but again, who knows? Only they'll really know how everything went down.
All right. So I guess let's get some sentencing.
Yeah. So this is where we get the big name drop, of course.
Yeah. What's the name drop?
When Malcolm is the title of the movie.
Oh. Don't you love it when shows and movies do that? And then it's like, oh,
well, I like when they make a big dramatic point out of it.
I mean, Tegan and I live for this sort of thing, like Better Call Saul, where you have like the name of the episode, or you get to see it unfold, like with, oh, that's why they're calling it that. All right, I completely forgot about this, by the way, when I was seeing the movie, because why the heck are they calling it like extremely, wicked? Why are they giving such a long time? No one's gonna be able to follow unless you really dial into the movie. Like, what's the deal? And of course, I completely forgot. Like, oh, that's why I was in the final. And I watched the tapes. It made me feel kind of stupid afterwards. Like, just, all right, that's I forgot.
Right, yeah, that whole bit, yeah.
Like a month in between, I get like, oh, right, that's it. That's clever. I like it.
Otherwise, I don't think it should have been called that.
Sure.
Honestly, I don't think it's a great title.
I think the reason they went with that for the title, aside from the obvious fact it's in the movie, I think the real reason that he went for that, because again, ideally, if the marketing went his way, it would have been that, again, you're looking at like a Zac Efron, essentially marketing it as like a rom-com with Zac Efron, like, oh man, this poor guy's being set up. You sent the road. What's going on here? And of course, like Zac Efron, say it ain't so. He's not extremely wicked, evil and vile. Heck no. And of course, the movie would walk you through. Okay, that's why he's old. Okay, I get you now. I think that's what the intent was, and of course, the marketing screwed that one up. So.
Yeah.
This movie is, in some level, supposed to be.
Shit up.
Yeah, this is on some level, it's supposed to be kind of like an introduction to Ted Bundy for the next generation. It's kind of what's intended to be. So in that respect, it would have made a lot of sense in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was the name of the book? They should have just like named it after the book.
The book was called. Sorry, I have it right here. Oh yes, it was Phantom Prince: My Life with Ted Bundy.
It should have been something like My Life with Ted Bundy. Or something like that, so we knew it was her point of view.
Phantom Prince.
What was that?
Yeah, go on.
I said I like the Ring of Phantom Prince. I think that has like an ominous tone to it.
I do too, and I also like it just being like my whatever. Like it's something like her point of view. Yeah. My relationship with the killer. What?
It's a lot better than Oh Bunny. That was her nickname. Remember, he had these couple of nicknames. I got one of them in the movie where it is like Teddy Bear, and of course, well, no, that's not. I'm adding the O. It's like Bunny, Carol's pet name for Teddy.
It was weird to see Lily Collins as like a mom. Like I didn't buy that. I don't know if that was me being super judgy, But I was like, I don't buy it.
Because we didn't mention the father at all. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's like something kind of like.
Yeah, they don't mention the father at all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's kind of like an example where we use a kid as a plot device sometimes, where it's like like Everybody Loves Raymond, for example. Like the kids they never fashioned. Like rarely, if only if an episode was revolved around a kid, they were always like, "Hey, the kids, right? Your mom has to take Marie has to take the kids," and it's like the kids just like there. Hey, there's who are those little people running around sitting there like sitting at the smaller version of the dinner table. Oh, it's the kids, of course. And it's like she has a kid, of course. There's basically the parallels with Kimberly, which is the main reason that kid's in the movie, and of course the fact it was in real life. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess with the sentencing, what we kind of learn is that some horror can't be overlooked, and it's a wake up call to the audience. And like the charming showman, charming as the showman may be, he as charming as somebody can be, even if you root for someone in a movie, they can have really dark layers to them. Again, that's the big cautionary tale moment of the movie here, and of course the scene that I guess follows later on. So,
Yeah,
and
my favorite.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say my favorite part of the like the sentencing was like when it just cuts to Zac Efron as he's getting like the death penalty, and it's just like a single tear, and I was like, whoa, that was really good.
And I've always loved the judge's comments. Where I like how we shoot because we're focusing on basically this is, again, could be like the poster for the movie where we're focused on Ted Bundy's face as the sentence has been kind of cast upon him, and again, like we're deeming this man these extremely wicked, vile, evil, and vile, all that stuff. We're labeling him this, and of course, we learn as throughout the movie all of this stuff. But point being, as we focus on him, as also we have like kind of some humanity from the judge, and basically we have like there's this one line I think perfectly summarizes Ted Bundy beyond the whole namesake. I think perfectly summarizes Ted Bundy is the judge. He says, "I don't do this with malice. I don't like it. This is not. I don't do this personally. Personally, you don't. Basically says, he regrets the promise that he showed. Like, I would have been privileged to have you, perform law in my courtroom." And the line I think summarizes him is that this is a tragedy in this courtroom to see such a waste of humanity, like a waste of humanity. That's Ted Bundy. Again, all the humanity that the idea is that Ted Bundy is a waste of humanity, that he could fabricate humanity as the day is long in that courtroom, all the bubbly kind of song and dance man acts and all that sort of stuff. Again, the guy exuded humanity, but a false humanity. That's the waste of humanity he's talking about there. And I think that's ultimately what he kind of realized and what the jury realized. Like, again, this guy, he has potential for humanity, but he's just, as a human being, he's not human. He's that evil.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And they like showed that at the end, like in the credits, like that's what he actually said.
Yep.
Like, I don't have ill will towards you. I would have loved to see you practice here or whatever. Which I'm like, he's being a little too nice, I think.
What a great judge. I know, it's always nice to judge. Here's the thing, we've definitely learned this through Better Call Saul. I've actually seen this firsthand. I went to a courtroom once, and judges are unpredictable. What kind of judge you're going to get? Sometimes they can be kind of the usual, like fire and brimstone. They can be kind of an authoritative judge. You can have like a liar judge where he's authoritative, like, okay, I'll indulge this, that sort of thing. And there are all sorts of varieties of judge, and sometimes they'll be a little bit more light. Sometimes they'll be you'll never know what you're going to get. And I think it's kind of what we get with this judge here is it's sometimes you get a really nice judge. I don't know.
Yeah, too nice. In my opinion, but that's just me.
All right.
I would have been like, fuck you, man, you killed a bunch of women. I don't know.
But if he were Zac Efron, though, would you?
True, fair point.
All right. Let's talk about the big scene. So Ted Bundy's on death row. 10 years later, the idea is like he now has probably like a 10-year-old kid. He's got a 10-year-old daughter and everything. Again, I do wonder, by the way, before we get to the big scene, I wonder if Ted Bundy, because the idea is like he's been giving basically the idea too, if you really want to look at it this way, and I don't know if maybe this would help on a rewatch, especially for you, Tiki. it kind of facilitates the Ted Bundy tapes as the unofficial sequel to this movie, if you really look at it that way. Because the idea is, again, after this ending, that's when the Ted Bundy tapes would come into play. Like those goes up to like the day of the execution of those tapes, essentially. So
Sure, yeah.
it's kind of like the perfect sequel in that regard, or a companion piece, I suppose. But I do wonder if Ted Bundy, essentially, what he did is he would give these little hints, like he wouldn't officially confess, but he would give things that are everything but the words of a confession. He'd give these details to buy himself some time to kind of stay the execution, which again, essentially they stayed the execution for 10 years. And I don't know if that wasn't all because death row takes a long time in some cases and others. Point being, it took a while, and then he tried to buy time even past that. And the question is he buying time for himself, the ego of himself, or is he buying time to maybe be with the family that he did forge on death row?
Both.
Oh, yeah, that's the right answer. Why couldn't it be both? Why does it have to be in order? But yeah, sure. A little silly there, but yeah, she called me out there. All right. So, anyway, so
right. Were you looking for a right answer?
I don't know. Just gonna raise the question. She said, "Well, why can't it be both?" Well, yeah, she got me. Yeah, it couldn't be. It can't be both. All right. So,
but I think that this moment is it's just a great kind of culmination. Dragon, I think I can pinpoint why you like this so much is because Dragon, you're a fan of the slow burn, am I right?
I enjoy slow burn at times, yes. I think
and so I feel like this is kind of like the ultimate sort of like pressure cooker of throughout the movie. We know that this dark shit is happening in the background. We know that, like, obviously based on history, if you're going into this movie at all, you know that Ted Bundy is not a guy to be reckoned with. You know that he is completely guilty the whole time. And so for that, it's like, as we've been illustrating throughout the movie takes its damn time getting to that point. But then once it gets to that point, and literally all it is just like a single word in window fog. But that moment is it's just so chilly because it's just like this ultimate kind of like, yeah, I did it, and here's how I did it.
So the only liberty taken in this scene, by the way, the only liberty taken was the fact that it was a phone call. I believe it was around Christmas time too, if I'm not mistaken. The point is there was a phone.
And he doesn't actually tell her hacksaw, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't.
I read.
I believe you're right, but yeah, I think he essentially, I'm pretty sure he confessed to her, but it was over the phone, and I forget the Christmas time thing. I think I'm thinking of something else there. I don't know 100%. I don't know if it was around the holidays or no, it couldn't have been because of the point. I'm not sure. Anyway, the point being, it was a phone call, and but again, so they made it a little more cinematic here. Well, it is still via phone, but it's like the phone of like a face-to-face meeting, so they kind of made it a little bit more cinematic. So in my mind, like that, come on, that's close enough. I mean, it's over the phone, and like a conversation was had. Only we did it a little bit more intimately. I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, and like the articles I've read, it said he said, sometimes I'll have these thoughts where I just have to go chase that woman, and I know I shouldn't, but I can't help myself. Yeah, and also on the phone call is where he admitted that when she asked him, "Did you ever try to kill me?" and he admitted that he like closed the vent, and then like something and she woke up in the middle of the night coughing. Where like he closed the vent so the smoke couldn't get out or something.
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
Yeah, so he admitted that to her on the phone. But yeah, I think in the movie, like she like brings the picture of the girl without the head, and it's like, what happened to her head? Like, I'm sure
well, some animals do that. They just kind of probably wandered by. Animals don't do that, Ted. She wants the truth.
Yeah, and I'm sure, they had to make it all movie and like one final moment where he just like blows on the grass and then writes hacksaw. That was my favorite part of the movie. Which they had to do something like that. But yeah, it was. It was
on a rewatch, she uses this great analogy. She says, like, for all this time, you've had your hands around my neck, metaphorically, of course. And basically, she's just trying to free herself by getting closure. She's confronting her demon you know,
Well, I
she's
think
putting the
she
whole.
wants to hear him say, I mean,
Yeah.
and this is what you're saying. She wants to hear him say it so that she's not like being like, it's all my fault that I gave his name, or, you know, she just wants to be able to sleep at night knowing that it actually was him, which is kind of weird, but I mean, anyone would want to just know 100%.
Yeah, and again, I think without getting too, I don't want to get too into it, but I mean, I think the fact of the matter is there is a little bit of if this movie is kind of made for like the kind of a Ted Bundy for educating the new kids on the block, educating the next generation, like what Ted Bundy was and kind of what the cautionary tale for a serial killer should be. You also have a bit of like, there's a little bit of kind of the culture we're in now, where people especially, especially a lot of ladies these days, they want the admission. They want the admission from their abuser or their attacker. They want the admission. They kind of need it. It's kind of it's like for anyone in the situation, they want that. And I think there's a little bit of modern day infused in it, but not in an intrusive way. I thought that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Hacksaw is just brilliant and chilling to me, because then what we do, and again, maybe in lieu of doing the kind of the suffocation thing, in lieu of doing the kind of the monoxide poisoning, whatever, the trying to kind of kill her in her sleep sort of thing. What we did here is, we kind of see kind of the classic Ted Bundy modus operandi, where basically as Hacksaw is being written, we have this beautifully edited sequence here where we just kind of cut to like with almost, I believe all the sound or so is dialed out, but if not, we have this really kind of low as it's basically, this is really cool. There's a sound of a saw, of the hacksaw being in the background if you really listen to it. As this is going on, as he's like kind of he's on, I believe, probably like a sorority or someplace where he's just walking down the place, and he has the arm in the sling, and he basically asks one to go to his Beetle, go to the truck, go to his car.
He needs help carrying his books. She's carrying the books.
And then of course, with the tire iron he got from the trunk, bam, and puts her in the trunk, and that's again like when you have a kind of a classic, when many people think of Ted Bundy, or when you think what the guy, how he operates, that's how it is. So you have like a snippet of that. Then of course she goes back as she walks out of the room. She pieces it together, and then we see all those clips from before come back, like, oh god, like when we see it from the kind of the more sinister point of view, where Ted was actually looking at her back, about maybe to take a chomp out of her, and then of course the dog thing, and of course playing with with Molly, all that sort of stuff. It's all just flowing back, all the stuff that was under her nose the whole time. Now she basically reframed her the way that she looked at Ted, and I love that Ted, again, the interesting thing, again, Ted Bundy, through all the Ted Bundy tapes, and the whole thing is that Ted Bundy never precisely said that he did these things. He looked at himself through a third person sort of thing. He could never say like, I did these things. So interestingly, with Hacksaw, he doesn't say a word, but he writes it down.
Yeah, exactly. I love the symbolism of that.
That was brilliant how they did that in the movie.
What I love is that Liz was sort of Liz again embodied any humanity. Again, Ted Bundy. The fascinating thing about Ted Bundy as as kind of a person, kind of especially as a person you interpret through through a narrative, is that Ted Bundy is a story that we know the ending, we know the middle, we don't know the beginning. It's a story we're always coming in the middle of. That's the story of Ted Bundy. We never know the start, because there are answers that we'll never know. We don't know why he does these things. We don't know what compels him to do these things. Not entirely. It's always a lot of guesswork. If so, it's just rarely something's ever talked upon. 3 movies, we never talk upon this ever, because we don't know the answers. And that's a simple fact of it. And I love that what we kind of have in this movie is we kind of infer, again, we're still in the middle of the story, but we're kind of inferring a potential reason as to why. Where again, why would he go out of his way to kind of he's kind of committed to one woman with Liz. I'm not saying that was like 100% accurate, because again, like they were a little on again, off again to an extent in real life, I believe. But the point, like, he did lay down roots with her. He was there a lot. And Liz, again, being the semblance of humanity that he did have, whether that meant a lot to him or not, I can't tell you. But the fact that Ted, he says this to her, and he did not want to do this, because again, he essentially, with this hacksaw reveal, he was saying no to all her questions. I did not do that. I did not do that. I did not all that. He tells her that he writes down hacksaw, and he has tears in his eyes, and it's like Ted confronted the truth of his own evil, and in doing so, he lost Liz. And I think the whole time, through the whole movie, he knew if he did that, if he were honest with her, if he just kind of copped to, like, if he gave her a mission of yes at any point in the movie, he knew this would happen, and maybe that fueled a lot of reluctancy to just kind of confront his own evil. Perhaps Liz was the key. Perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yep, and that's
well said. All right.
Of course,
I just don't think we could say it any better than that. So I'm gonna.
I agree, Katie. Now you know my situation every night. Yeah. Like, well, yeah. Well, shit, you just laid it out.
We have my favorite part of any biopic. It sounds ridiculous. My favorite parts of any biopic. We have the text on the screen.
That's really your favorite part? Oh, I don't even want to get into that. All right.
No. I'm just saying, in most biopics,
the only time that I enjoy that is when it's done in an ironic way, like in The Social Network, where it, the last line of The Social Network is something like Mark Zuckerberg became the world's youngest billionaire, and he has 500 million friends on Facebook. But then you see that contrasted with Eisenberg just clicking refresh on the friend request from his ex-girlfriend.
Well, I mean, in terms of my favorite trope of the biopic, the thing it's almost in every biopic, usually there's text on the screen. It's like, it always gets a little excited, like, hey, look, the text on the screen. I know it sounds a little silly, but it's just like, hey, it's like the thing it's in every biopic.
Yeah, the text on the screen,
Yeah.
Let's see if they got it right. Sometimes they'll say this did not happen. Like the best example of this, the Chaplin has like the best extensive version of text on the screen telling you, but it makes it visually a little interesting. It has like great score behind it and everything. Okay, anyway, I'm drifting off from the Chaplin territory. Points here, we learned that he had over 30 victims, possibly a lot more. Essentially he copped it without saying I did this, saying that if someone were to do this, they probably would have done that. 30 plus victims on the last day. It's kind of on the tapes, and one of the creepiest things about Ted Bundy is that he had his ashes scattered over a mountainside, or over some area where most likely a majority of his victims are probably.
Yeah, that's very disquieting.
It's always creepy when a serial killer kind of gets his way.
And also, but isn't that also just like even more just like puts the viewer at rest? Like, yeah, he did it. The fact that he wanted to have his ashes spread where his victims were, like, ugh, it's fucking sick.
It is.
I do appreciate how they put all the names of the victims up.
That was a good touch.
That was really classy.
Yeah, I wish they would have done more of their pictures or something, because we are in this world where we focus so much on the murderer because it's interesting to us, and that's fair. But it's and maybe it's the families are harassed.
I'm pretty sure that's the reason, Katie. I'm pretty sure it's I don't want to be glorified. My child died. I don't want that glorified in this movie.
Yeah. But maybe after more time has passed, they could, since they did this movie, which it's very different than what we all thought, from her perspective, maybe they can do a movie about one of the girl in the Dead Bundy tapes that they're interviewing, who, she got away and she has to testify against him. I think that would be another cool story to do from her point of view, or from one of the actual victims' point of view, one of those Florida State girls. I don't know.
Well, yeah, we kind of got a taste of it here with again, kind of our lead being in that position. But you raise an interesting point, though. If we did kind of approach it a little bit more, maybe not even just Ted Bundy, maybe some other stories from the victims' point of view, or maybe a shrew of victims' point of views in that case. Yeah,
or even the girl, I can't remember her name, but she was. See, this is why we need more movies about them. Is she clearly doesn't mind if her name's out there because she's on this Netflix documentary, and she's saying it was really hard because all my friends were like, are you sure it was him? I mean, he's just too cute and charming. And could you imagine getting fucking kidnapped and almost killed, and your best friends are like, are you sure it was him?
Right, sure.
That's a nightmare right there.
Yeah, and she was even as soon as I saw him in the lineup, and she was like, I knew it was him. And they were interviewing guys, and they were like, yeah, we couldn't find people that looked kind of like him. We had to pull cops because they were the only good looking white guys too. Mm-hmm. And anyways, and yeah, I think that would be cool to show from her point of view of no one believes her because he's so attractive. Anyways,
Katie, your final thoughts?
Good movie overall. Interesting take. I like how, we were kind of supposed to be guessing with her. However, I think maybe, and I do like how the final moment, that's where it reveals all the creepy stuff. But yeah, I just kind of wanted a little bit more of some creepy stuff happening. just a touch, you know, like where I could really forget that it was Zac. More the moments where it's him with the beard and the messy hair being interviewed and creepy, and more like yelling at the Florida guy on tape and or the governor or whatever. Just a few more creepy moments. That's all I thought it was missing. And there were some parts with Lily Collins where I was just like, okay, like I'm over seeing you cry about it. Like,
you know, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with the pacing. It's like it's not that I didn't have empathy for her. It's just that I felt like it was a little repetitive towards the end.
yes, exactly. Like I thought the part where she doesn't let the cop in because he's giving her the envelope, like that was cool. The Haley Joel Osment, like, I wish I could take it all back, like those moments. But yeah, like her crying in the bathtub, I'm like, okay, like honestly, the crying seems fake to me. Yeah, I think it was just like the pacing, and it was just like, especially when it's about Ted Bundy and you're going into a movie where you want to get a little bit like spooked. It's like I'm sorry, but overall, really good. This is just me being nitpicky. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like it's definitely not in my top of the year or anything like that. I feel like it does kind of speak to like it does kind of feel like a Netflix movie. Dragon, honestly, I feel like you enjoyed the editing of this movie a lot more than I do. For me, the fact that it's so montage heavy and it jumps around from timeline to timeline kind of makes it feel a little all over the place, but that's just me. I mean, all film is subjective and all that, you know? But I am definitely on Katie's side where I see the vision of this movie, but I see a vision of this movie where we have a little bit more of a dark side to Ted. We have just a little bit more of kind of like a creepiness on the edges of this charming personality. But at the end of the day, it was an interesting experiment in a biopic. I feel like it was a very unconventional biopic with what it was setting out to achieve. And for that, I definitely give it a lot of merit. And, you know, Zac, he does definitely turn in a good performance. So, you know, all credit where credit's due there.
All right. Yeah, for me, again, to me, I think it's just so refreshing we get a serial killer biopic that's not just cashing in on the tragedy. It's not just a cash in of like, oh, okay, serial killer does horrific things, or it's the cop or the detective on the case who's going to capture the sadistic serial killer. Again, it was refreshingly different in that regard. You know, it's something that not only just refreshing, it has a point, and it knows what it's doing, and I really respected that. Again, it's just, I don't know, it's that, again, refreshing is just kind of like the word I use to summarize this movie in a lot of places. You know, it's really, in a lot of places, I think it's really on the money. The lead actor alone is a reason just to watch it. Beyond that, you know, it's no, seriously, because again, I mean, the performance again is so uncanny. You know, Efron is Ted Bundy. Like, you told me years ago, like, hey, you know, Zac Efron's going to play Ted Bundy. Get out of here! You're crazy. Don't get out of here. Never would have, like, one TB to another TB. I never would have put it together again. Maybe it was a sign. Ooh, but look, the only gripe I really have is Haley Joel Osment in terms of like that's the stuff I would have edited down, and the fact that I guess the odd fact again, Berlinger he kind of competed with himself in hindsight because the tapes come out, and then this comes out. And it kind of creates a few missed opportunities, knowing some stuff that, oh, yeah, it didn't make it into the movie. Again, purely coincidental, not really fair. And again, I think the proper way to look at it, I guess, in retrospect, is that, okay, well, the Ted Bundy tapes are a sequel to this, but oddly enough, we got the sequel before we got the first one. That's the thing. It's kind of competing with himself, which is kind of trippy. But anyway, so this, but I mean, yeah, this movie, it's unfortunately not getting the attention it's not getting the proper attention that it deserves, because again, a lot of the critics are being a little harsher on this movie than they should be. Again, it's not perfect, sure, but by the same token, I think people are they're going by by that kind of that marketing switch, all that stuff they have. I think they're bagging on with the initial horrified responses. He's winking at women at the trial. It's not like he's a charming guy, and that's what was scary about him. No, you know, we're glorifying, you're making a murderer a heartthrob. No, you know, that's not the point. And I think I think the critics just kind of glomming onto what that initial response was, and I think they're just kind of bringing that to when they're looking at the movie, and I don't think that's fair. But to me, this movie, it's a really solid biopic at the very least. It's definitely for me the most narratively impressive Ted Bundy film. Now, I know it's not saying a whole lot. I mean, that Mark Harmon one was good, but that's still it's kind of more of an obscure one. But that's definitely better than that 2002 version. But point being, this again, it was it was a refreshing stab at it was kind of a refreshing stab at Ted Bundy.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Katie, for coming on for a third time to the podcast. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your time with us.
You're welcome.
All right, and we will see you guys. We will see you guys later. And classy folks, keep it classy.
No singing. Just us watching another hilarious episode of Good Times. You know,
Wait.
it's funnier when you're really loud.
You're a Family Guy.
Baby who's feeling all right. Thanks to the magic of kids. Junior, where you been? Dinner was 3
Yeah,
hours.
he's doing the thing.
Oh, okay.
He's an idiot. Mama, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? My name is Florida. Florida. The name of a state.